Chapter 748. It was very swollen down there. When he thought about how her hands had played with his body until it was as swollen as it was now, he blushed and buried his head in her chest. It was only when he buried his head that he realized that the thing in her chest was not buried casually. The moment he buried it, he felt even more uncomfortable. The naked man and woman hugged each other. Time passed like ants crawling on the ground. Qin Fian thought, God, when will the sun rise? The woman in his arms started to get annoyed. She started to push and kick up a fuss. Qin Fian was hit by Xia Qian a few times. When she opened her eyes and saw Qin Fian, she froze for a moment and burped. She looked like she couldn't open her eyes and was trying her best to do so. Are you drunk? Loser. Qin Fian was shocked and said again, You're the loser. What? Are you afraid that I'll kiss you? Xia Qian narrowed her eyes. She was only paying attention to the position of Qin Fian's eyes. She didn't even see the lust in his eyes. Afraid? I, Xia Qian, don't know how to spell the word, afraid. With that, she grabbed Qin Fian's head and kissed him. Qin Fian saw the situation and deliberately resisted. Xia Qian, you boorish woman. Stay away from me. I won't. Xia Qian was so drunk that she flipped over and pinned Qin Fian down. The more Qin Fian turned his head to avoid Xia Qian's lips, the more Xia Qian wanted to kiss him. The louder Qin Fian made a fuss, the more excited Xia Qian was. She thought that he was a loser and slapped Qin Fian's face. Stop shouting. If you shout again, I'll sleep with you. Qin Fian's face was red and his heart was beating fast. His lower body was like a piece of iron that had just been poured out of a furnace. It was hard and hot. With red eyes, he said weakly, How dare you? If you dare to touch me, I'll kill you. But later, Qin Fian was disappointed to find that Xia Qian only wanted to scare him. Even if she was drunk, it was the same. She was just scaring him. So he hugged her waist and turned around. Using his self-taught skills, he kissed her lips, rubbed her chest, and spread her legs. While doing something worse than a beast, he used an extremely aggrieved voice to berate Xia Qian for being a hooligan and trying to molest him. Xia Qian was very dizzy. She only knew that she had to fight with Qin Fian. She thought that she had to beat him up. Hearing him dodge, complain and complain, she felt very comfortable in her heart. Listen, 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 he is fighting again. Xia Qian, how? Do you believe that I'll tear you apart? Suddenly, Xia Qian's consciousness came back from Qin Fian's voice. She felt as if a knife had pierced into her lower body. The pain came from her lower body, as if a powerful force was spreading and rushing to her throat. Ah! Qin Fian was also stunned. He didn't dare to move. He was so nervous that his whole body was red and sweating. But at this time, his instincts told him that he couldn't go out. He pressed his body down. He couldn't let Xia Qian move. He couldn't let her retreat. Since it was already like this, he had to make her his. Qin Fian. What did you do to me? It hurts. Qin Fian didn't dare to say sorry. He could only bite the bullet and scold, Xia Qian. What did you do to me? It hurts. You hooligan. After saying this, he realized that he was on top and she was below. So he hugged her waist, turned around and put her on top of him again. But he still held the woman's hips tightly, not allowing her to escape. Qin Fian grabbed Xia Qian's shoulders and pulled her down to press her down on top of him. He then put his lips on hers and shouted, Xia Qian, you hooligan. You actually kissed me. Men were like kissing in bed. They had super high awareness and knew how to move. But a virgin for the first time couldn't bear the pain. He thought that he could be very strong and never fall. In the end, while Xia Qian was screaming in pain, Qin Fian surrendered very quickly. Qin Fian was a man who had never slept with a woman or been in a relationship. If he were to be taught how to love a woman in bed, he definitely wouldn't know. He was annoyed that he was so fast. Why didn't he last a little longer? But more importantly, Qin Fian finally thought that Xia Qian belonged to him. Xia Qian was a little awake, but her thoughts were tangled up by Qin Fian, who had a bitter and vengeful expression on his face. Qin Fian wrapped himself in the blanket, revealing his pitiful but charming phoenix eyes. He complained in a tearful voice, Xia Qian, you're not human. How dare you do such a thing to me? How am I supposed to face people in the future? Xia Qian was about to explain when she realized that she was tongue-tied. She was so anxious that she couldn't speak for a long time. She was still naked, but this man was wrapped up tightly. Did she rape him? But she was the one who was bleeding, okay? That's not right, Qin Fian, it's clearly what? Clearly what? What else do you want? What else do you want to do to me? Oh, look at me like that. Qin Fian was very beautiful, comparable to a woman. At this moment, his sorrowful look was pitiful. Xia Qian hugged a pillow which happened to cover her naked body. She was still not fully awake and had a terrible headache. Qin Fian's howling made her head hurt even more, as if there was a tumor growing in her brain. She was very angry and annoyed. "What are you howling for? It's my first time." Qin Fian argued. "What's so great about your first time?" "It's my first time too. I'm almost 26 years old and still a virgin. Do you think it's easy for me? You actually raped me." Qin Fian did not give Xia Qian a chance to think. He lifted the quilt, pulled Xia Qian into his quilt and hugged her. His two legs tightly wrapped around her legs and he snorted. "Let me tell you, Xia Qian, I'm going to sue you for molesting me tomorrow. You have to compensate me for my psychological damage. I have to prevent you from running away. Let me tell you, this money, don't even think about not paying. Do you think I, Qin Fian, am so easy to bully? Try running away for fear of punishment. How much money do you want?" Xia Qian was really uncomfortable with Qin Fian's howling. It was as if she had done something immoral. A man's first time was actually worth more than hers? Damn, what's so great about being a virgin? "We'll talk about it tomorrow morning. Either we settle or we go to court. My heart is very hurt now. I'm very sleepy. I'm going to sleep for a while. You're not allowed to run away. Don't even think about denying the money. Are you transformed from a bird? Chirp chirp. Damn it, you're so annoying." Xia Qian scolded and closed her eyes to sleep. Qin Fian heard Xia Qian's breathing and knew that she was still drunk. That was why it was so easy to deal with. But what if she woke up tomorrow morning? But what did the radio program say? Don't ask. At most he would be slapped twice. If he didn't kiss her, he would miss the opportunity. He had already done it. He couldn't regret it. Now that he was hugging Xia Qian like this, and he was a young man who had just experienced love for the first time, this feeling could only be understood but not described. He released too quickly just now. He was a little embarrassed, but he was confident that he could do it well the second time. Xia Qian's cry of pain just now made him feel conflicted. How could he make her not feel pain? If she woke up faster each time, it would be difficult for him to cover it up. So he took advantage of the opportunity. After Xia Qian fell asleep, he got out of bed quietly and searched for his phone. He began to search for information on the internet. The internet was a good thing. You could find anything you wanted. With one search, all kinds of strange things would come out. Qin Fian got on the bed again. He began to kiss Xia Qian slowly and patiently. He suppressed his impulse and didn't allow himself to be impatient. There were still burns on Xia Qian's back. Qin Fian touched there and his heart ached. This time he kissed Xia Qian, who was drunk like a dead pig and moaned from time to time, while he slowly pushed himself into her body. Xia Qian kept feeling that her body was very swollen. She wanted to squeeze that thing out of her body, but she just wanted to suck it into her body. It was very torturous. It was like a dream. She was jolted awake. When she found that she was on top of Qin Fian again, she felt that she was going crazy. She actually had Qin Fian on top of her again. Qin Fian looked at the woman lying on his chest. When she propped herself up, he knew that things weren't going well. When he was slow, she was always dizzy. Sometimes she would moan a few times. After thinking about it, he felt that it should be fine. However, he was afraid that she would wake up and see him on top of her. So, he simply flipped her over like before and placed her on top of him. He just wanted to give it a try quickly. After a few jolts, she woke up. This time, Qin Fian didn't stop. He shouted, "Xia Qian, you're really going too far. If I don't teach you a lesson, you'll think that I'm easy to bully, right? Why are you always on top of me?" Xia Qian was stunned by his shout. Her body had already flipped over and was pressed down by Qin Fian. Then she was hit. "Hey, I didn't do it on purpose. Why are you so hard?" Qin Fian was a little embarrassed. "Oh, then I'll be gentler?" For the entire night, Qin Fian used revenge as an excuse and took Xia Qian apart again and again. He felt that this way his first night was worth it. He could finally enjoy the beauty of being a man. It was really different. The next morning, Qin Fian didn't dare to sleep for too long. There were still a lot of things to deal with at home. However, he also had to deal with Xia Qian's matter. Especially after what happened last night, this matter couldn't be delayed. Seeing that she was exhausted, Qin Fian carefully got out of bed. He took a shower under the shower. What happened last night still felt like a dream. He felt that last night was like a night of sex. Qin Fian's skin was fair. After the hot shower, there was a layer of pink on his skin. He raised his head and let the water wash over his skin. He had to be 120% alert. Otherwise, it would be difficult for him to get through today. Now, he was a little thankful that Xia Qian would act like an idiot from time to time. Otherwise he wouldn't be so easily fooled. What a headache. It was too scary for a woman like her to go out to work. No wonder she didn't get into university. Even if she did, her teacher wouldn't recommend her to an internship. She was really unlucky. In the future he would be the one to end her miserable life. Qin Fian wiped the water off his body, wrapped a bath towel around his waist, and filled the bathtub with water. He carried Xia Qian from the bed and wanted to put her in the bathtub. Xia Qian was still sleeping soundly. She was startled by the water and continued to sleep. Qin Fian poured water on her and called her, Qian 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 Qian. Xia Qian was in a daze. She felt really comfortable at this moment. What? After you finish bathing. Let's go get the marriage certificate. I have something to do this afternoon. It can't be delayed. Xia Qian shivered and shook her head to wake up. God, why was Qin Fian here? Why was Qin Fian bathing her? He was bathing her naked. She wanted to stand up, but found that there was nothing to cover her. She immediately wrapped her arms around her chest. He was still shirtless. Shameless. Come and see. Hongcha 866. Chapter 749. What did this guy say? Marriage certificate? Was his brain kicked by a donkey? He slapped away Qin Fian's hand that was rubbing against his shoulder. The water splashed all over Qin Fian, but he was not angry. He repeated, I said let's go get the marriage certificate. What? Qin Fian pouted pitifully and complained, you slept with me last night. Shouldn't we go get the marriage certificate? Xia Qian swallowed. What marriage? She slept with him? She thought for a long time. But didn't he say that she couldn't afford to sleep with him? Didn't you ask for money? How much money do you have? How much are you worth? If it's not enough, I'll borrow from my sister. Marry? Even if she wanted to find a boyfriend, she couldn't marry Qin Fian, right? Can you afford to pay me back in the future? Xia Qian, she asked guiltily, how much? 1 billion. Can you afford it? If you can't, then marry me. Qin Fian raised his eyebrows and said. He thought to himself, a lion has to ask for a lot. If I don't ask, can I still be a lion? Qin Fian. You bastard. Why are you so expensive? Xia Qian was confused. She was confused 10,000 times. God, this is too much. F***ck, I really can't afford to sleep with him. Qin Fian, I want to put it on credit. Qin Fian choked. He looked at the girl whose face was steaming from the hot water. She looked serious. Put it on credit. What did she mean? Xia Qian was very anxious. Such an expensive man. God, she never thought that she would sleep with a man with such a high price. There was such a person. She wanted to get married if he didn't pay? Other than looking good and having a good figure, Qin Fian didn't fit her description of a future partner at all. Although she was a little stupid when it came to marriage, she should at least find a reliable man, right? She couldn't see through other people's personalities, but she should be able to tell if they were reliable or not, right? Qin Fian was not a reliable person at all. If she had those unparalleled martial arts skills and wuxia novels, she would definitely get rid of evil for the people and bring peace to the people. Xia Qian didn't think that she would be able to walk out of the shadow of losing her virginity so quickly. She was convinced. Could it be that sleeping with a good-looking virgin could make her feel better? She slapped herself in her heart, but it was useless. What she cared about the most now was the billion, not her life. She thought for a moment. Why did Qin Fian quote such a high price? She tilted her head and asked, Qin Fian, this is my first time too. Why do I have to pay you back? I can also be worth 1.5 billion. Qin Fian smiled. He stood up and squeezed some shampoo from the wall dispenser. He squatted down and mixed some water, then applied it on Xia Qian's head and washed her hair. Qian Qian, you can't quote a sky-high price for this money. Why does a person have to have a status? It's so that they can estimate the value when they suffer a loss. He mixed some water again and brushed the corners of her hair to the top of her head, creating a large ball of bubbles. Qin Fian squatted outside the bathtub with a towel wrapped around his waist, as if he had washed someone's hair countless times. At that time he was 15 years old and lived in her house. Many girls liked to run to her house because they saw that he was pretty and wanted to get close to him. Every time she wanted to show everyone that he was hers, she would bring a basin of water to the dam outside the courtyard and sit on a small stool to let him wash her hair. He would even dry clean it, just like the hairdressers in the city. Children in the countryside didn't wash their hair every day. Not only did she wash it every day, sometimes twice a day. Now that she was in the bubbles, the shampoo had changed, but the texture of her hair didn't seem to have changed. Her hair was thin, not thick, and not black. Qin Fian sighed. He felt that Xia Qian wasn't the kind of person who liked to be sad, so the corners of his mouth twitched again. He said leisurely, Qian, think about it. If the two of us went out at the same time and got scratched by a car, how much would you ask them to pay? Think about it. How much would I ask them to pay? Scratched? Scratched by a car? Not a bicycle? Yes, a car. Qin Fian saw that Xia Qian was enjoying him washing her hair. Seeing that she was serious, he sat on the edge of the bathtub and sat behind her. This way he could brush all the hair and bubbles back. Let's talk about a car. Let's estimate it at 1 million. Xia Qian wanted to talk to Qin Fian, but he was already behind her. But this was good. She watered herself and bathed. Such an expensive car. No matter what, I have to ask him to pay 5 or 10,000 yuan. I can't let him get away with it. I have to buy some tonics to nourish my body. What's wrong with scratching the skin? Even scratching the skin is still flesh and blood, right? After Xia Qian finished speaking, she pretended to frown and clenched her fists. Qin Fian clasped his hands together and brushed his hair back along his hairline, creating a big bunch of bubbles. He then stood up and threw the bubbles into the toilet bowl. Yes, even scratching the skin is still flesh and blood. But if I were to be scratched by a car like this, I would ask him to pay me 1 million yuan. Xia Qian trembled and spat. 1 million yuan? Qin Fian, are you shameless? It's just a scratch. 1 million yuan is considered a small amount. If I were to be scratched, I would have to go to the hospital to clean up the wound, delay my time, delay a contract, and possibly lose hundreds of millions. 1 million yuan is considered letting him off easy. If he angers me, I will think of ways to make his career go down the drain. So, my value is different. You calculate this multiple. If you are worth 5 billion yuan, how many times do I have to pay? Xia Qian was scared silly. Forget it, it was better not to compare with him. He was a young master and she was a little cabbage. What was there to compare? Let's talk about credit. Qin Fian, I said I want to be cheap on credit. Did you hear me? There's no credit. Qin Fian was about to wash Xia Qian's hair. Lower your head. I will wash the bubbles for you. Oh, okay. Xia Qian. She wondered why she was so obedient to him. Qin Fian did not use the shower head. Instead, he took a cup of tea from the hotel and washed it for Xia Qian. Qian, do you remember when you were young, someone washed your hair like this? Xia Qian lowered her head, but her eyes were open. She was not afraid that the bubbles would enter her eyes. Who was it? Who is still so old-fashioned and washes their hair with a cup of water? Don't you have a shower head? Are you stupid? Haha, Qian, I am stupid. You just realized? Qin Fian smiled, but his smile was a little bitter. Qin Fian, let's talk business. I want to be on credit. I don't allow credit. How can you do that? When you do business, you have to make a down payment, an advance payment, a contract payment, and a final payment. Why can't I? Qin Fian said, Qian, you know quite a lot. Are you kidding? I'm also a host. If I don't know these things, how can I survive? Okay, you can make the down payment of 100 million. Xia Qian wanted to raise her head a few times, but Qin Fian held her down. I'm on credit. I don't have the money for the down payment. Give me a discount and I'll pay in installments. Forget it, don't pay in installments. Once we get married, you don't have to pay me back. 1.5 billion. You won't be able to pay it back even if you earn it for the rest of your life. So, I can't give you such a big sum of money on credit. Qin Fian wanted to get married, but Xia Qian thought he was not reliable. Xia Qian thought that she was already very unreliable. When she found a husband, she had to be more down to earth. She should be like Jiang Zhao, who could be seen as reliable. Jiang Zhao was Xia Qian's standard for a husband. How could Qin Fian and Jiang Zhao be the same type? So they did not get married. But Xia Qian promised Qin Fian that she would give him an answer when he returned from Ji City. So, during the days in Ji City, Qin Fian was anxious to return home. Fei Yu was sent to Jiang Zhao's house. Her body was still a little weak and the pink color of her lips had not returned. Yi Er carried a pile of snacks to Fei Yu's bed and opened them for her to eat. Yi Er's hair was tied up in a bun on top of her head. She wore maternity clothes and sat cross-legged on the bed. She opened a bag of spicy rice crust and handed it to Fei Yu, who was reading a book. Little Yu, eat some of this. Fei Yu shook her head. Sister-in-law, I don't want to eat. Yi Er pushed it to Fei Yu's mouth anxiously. Eat it, eat it. When Jiang Zhao comes back tonight, I'll say you ate it. You eat 1 bag, I'll eat 3. When Jiang Zhao comes back tonight, I'll say you ate 4. Fei Yu laughed. Sister-in-law, you're asking me to eat it. Do you want me to take the blame for you? It doesn't count as taking the blame, right? You did eat it, didn't you? Sister-in-law, you're pregnant now. You shouldn't eat this kind of heaty food. It's not good for the baby. Even someone like me knows that. Eat more fruit. Fruit is good for the baby's skin. Eat it. I eat a lot of fruit. When I eat this kind of heaty food, I'll immediately eat some cold fruit. That's why I can't get heaty. It's pressing down. Fei couldn't refuse. How about this? Open this bag. I'll eat 2 pieces and give the rest to you. When brother comes back, I'll say I ate it. Is that okay? Fei, you're so loyal. Okay, you eat 2 pieces and give the rest to me. You have to promise that you won't betray me. You can't tell your brother. Hee, I'm not worried about sister-in-law. But when you're done eating, you have to remember to eat some cold fruit. Don't get heaty. Otherwise my brother will kill me. Don't worry. I'm also very loyal. Yi winked playfully at Fei. Yi used the same method to trick Fei into eating a lot of things. Sour, spicy. It made Fei's expression colorful and very cute. Fei was clearly unhappy. But after a day she was teased by Yi until she kept laughing. When Yi finally left Fei's room, she let out a big breath and thought to herself, God, I'm so tired. Serving a little girl who dares to take poison is really a technical job. It's too difficult to make her happy. It's too challenging. When Jiang Zhao returned home at night, he quickly found that there was a big dent in the snack box. It was a deep hole. He asked the housekeeper at home. The housekeeper said she had never eaten it before. It was all Madame's favorite food. Jiang Zhao was so angry that he let out a big breath. He didn't allow her to buy this kind of junk food at home. She promised to eat less, but she actually dared to eat so much. Yunyi, come out. Fei heard it from upstairs. She thought to herself, it's over. Brother Zhao is angry. 5 minutes later, Yi and Fei stood in a row. How much did you eat? Yi pouted and wobbled. She didn't feel guilty at all when she started to lie. I only ate a few plums. Fei ate the rest. If you don't believe me, you can ask Fei. In fact, after Fei's appetite was aroused, she really did eat a lot. Brother, I ate it. Sister-in-law only ate a few plums. Those pickled peppers were really delicious. Although it was a bit spicy, so spicy that I kept sweating. But the spicy feeling of sweating is really good. Jiang Zhao wondered if he had gone too far. Would Fei think too much about it? Fei, don't think too much. I'm just worried that your sister-in-law will get heaty. The housekeeper can't even make herbal tea for her every day. I'm afraid it's not good for the baby. If you like it, I'll buy some tomorrow when I come back from work. Fei was a bit scared. Sister-in-law actually got so heaty? Tomorrow she would never do something like this again. No matter what, she had to keep a close eye on sister-in-law. This greedy cat. So on the second day after Fei moved into the 9th mansion, she was no longer under anyone's care. She began to take care of Yi. Yi said that pregnant women were most afraid of spraining their waists and cramping their legs. She said a lot of things to pay attention to. Fei remembered them all. When she saw Yi holding some snacks in her hands, she would snatch them and eat them herself. When she saw her bare feet hanging outside, she would help her put on socks. After Fei came, Yi kept forgetting things. Her memory was deteriorating and her self-control was deteriorating. Fei's nerves were on the verge of collapsing. She put all her energy into taking care of Yi's every move. When they were in bed, Yi told Jiang Zhao about her good intentions. The little girl can't be idle at this time. She has to have something to do. Let her lie in bed and recuperate. The more she recuperates, the quieter she becomes. The quieter she is, the easier it is for something to happen. If I let her have a string in her heart, she won't have time to think about her own matters, right? If she doesn't have time to think, she won't be depressed and unhappy all day. If she can't figure it out, she has to think about the pregnant woman at home. Fei, this child is still very responsible. She just can't bear to see me pitiful. She is too compassionate. That Feng Xing was born out of her love and care. She's used to taking care of others. The more she gives, the more feelings she has. Isn't that right? Wifey, you're so smart. Jiang Zhao kissed Yi's forehead fiercely. Feng Xing is fine. Wait for Grandpa to come back and deal with it. Fei is still young after all. I think so too. Fei is still okay. She's only 16 or 17 years old. What does she know about feelings? When I was 16 or 17 years old, I didn't know anything. Jiang Zhao frowned. That's right. How could he forget that his wife was also a little girl? She wasn't even 20 years old when she was with him. She was still young. He asked a little jealously, then did you know when you were 18 or 19 years old? Ye looked into Jiang Zhao's eyes. She saw that his expression was a little unnatural. The corners of her mouth opened and she chuckled. I understood when I was 19 years old. Jiang Zhao hugged Ye before. 19 years old? She knew him when she was 19 years old. Really? Yeah, I only understood after I met you. Ye smiled until her face was rotten. She snuggled into Jiang Zhao's arms to ask for a reward. Very obedient. Hubby be good. Is there a reward? Ye's hand reached into Jiang Zhao's clothes. Not too often. Tomorrow. How about tomorrow? Be gentle. It's okay. Ye acted coquettishly and shamelessly tugged at Jiang Zhao's pajamas. Come and see. Songshu 566. Chapter 750. Xia Qian received a piece of news that made her very excited. She could host a show. She had waited for so long, and now she could officially host a show in front of the camera. She felt that she should do her best to welcome her new job. This was an opportunity and also an opportunity. But when the head of the department gave her the program list, Xia Qian was depressed. Why was she, a young woman who had just lost her virginity, asked to host a late-night talk show? Moreover, it was a talk show about heterosexual topics. The topics discussed were all kinds of heterosexual topics. Xia Qian was depressed. Xia Qian found the bald department head. She held the program list in her hand and stammered, not knowing what to say. She scratched the back of the department head's desk with her fingernails for a long time before saying, Department Head Zhang, do you think it's possible for me to swap with another colleague for this show? Department Head Zhang, whose eyes were still a little swollen, raised his head. He looked like he was in low spirits after too much indulgence. When he looked at Xia Qian, he smiled and said, Swap. Yes, with my qualifications, I'm afraid it won't be very convincing for me to host this kind of show. Xia Qian thought, why couldn't she host something? She had just lost her virginity in a daze, and she still owed a huge debt after losing her virginity. Wasn't it too difficult for her to talk about sex with the audience? What's wrong with your qualifications? Xia Qian was still a little afraid of the department head. After all, it was rare for her to be valued by the department head. She could just swap with another colleague and the department wouldn't lose anything. I think it's more suitable for this kind of show to host an emotional show. Why don't you continue to do odd jobs? Department head Zhang said coldly and stood up. If you don't want to host, I'll go and ask which interns are willing to host. This program has a high viewership rating in our station, and several hosts became famous because of this program. When Xia Qian heard that she would do odd jobs, she immediately extinguished the fire. Okay. I'll host. The reason why this show was so popular even when it was broadcast at 12:30 p.m. was because the topics discussed were very broad. Menstruation, leukorrhea, orgasm, erection, impotence, one-night stands. Sex equals hunger, affairs, third party, etc. They talked about all the topics about the right and wrong views of the world. The female host's style of dress required a short skirt. Even if she wore a high-collared top, she had to wear a short skirt or hot pants. Once, there was a female host who wore a sexy high-waisted dress that exposed her navel and chest. She was on the front page of the newspaper the next day and became famous overnight. Xia Qian actually didn't feel that there was anything that couldn't be talked about. When they were in the university dormitory, there was nothing that girls didn't dare to talk about when they were together. Whether it was men, women, women, or their positions, there was nothing that they hadn't studied before. But in front of the camera he felt a little embarrassed. After all, he didn't have much experience. Xia Qian put on her makeup and changed her clothes. She didn't even dare to look at herself in the mirror. The TV station had prepared a short denim skirt that exposed her midriff. They said that at her age she would look sexy in such a dress. Qin Fian's daily call came. Qian, what are you doing? Xia Qian felt that Qin Fian was her creditor now, so she had to be a little more polite to him. After all, every time she wanted to hang up on him, he would say that it was a creditor's call. So expensive. As soon as she saw Qin Fian's call flash, Xia Qian saw a screen full of money. She could only think of one word: so expensive. Why did she sleep with such an expensive man? So expensive that she couldn't afford to sleep with other men for the rest of her life. The most tragic thing was that before you could taste anything he would tell you to pay up. You've already eaten everything. How wronged. I'm preparing to go on the show, Xia Qian answered perfunctorily. She sat on the stool and looked at the A4 paper in her hand. Some of the content for the show was written on it. Today's topic was, have we now entered the era of love and sexual independence? Xia Qian frowned. She didn't know what love was, but this topic was too profound. Ah, you're going on the show? Qin Fian was originally lying on the bed reading a magazine. At this moment he was so happy that he turned around and crossed his legs. So fast. Originally he wanted to arrange for her to be a host when he got back. He didn't expect that she would already be on the show with her own efforts. That was amazing. His wife was really capable. Her brain was still as smart as before. Qin Fian was very satisfied with his taste. I can't go on the show? Xia Qian, who had been a little annoyed, suddenly felt uncomfortable when she heard Qin Fian's rhetorical question. What was wrong? Everyone was looking down on her, right? When they heard that she was on the show, they had such a big reaction. They didn't believe her. Was she that bad? Why would she be surprised when she was on the show? What? I'm just happy for you. You can finally go on the show. I'm just praising you. What do you mean I can finally go on the show? You're obviously looking down on me. Eh? How am I looking down on you? I'm obviously happy for you. Qin Fian felt wronged. How did this become looking down on her? Who wants you to be happy for me? It's expected that I'll be on the show. There's nothing to be happy about. Okay. Our Chen Qian is not surprised by honor or disgrace. I didn't say anything just now. When Qin Fian was 15 years old, he had been enslaved by Bing Dan, so he was used to being ordered around by Bing Dan. Bing Dan used to ask him to flatter her. Even when the cat at home caught a mouse, he had to say that it was her ability because she fed the cat well. So when Xia Qian was a little fierce now, Qin Fian would immediately give in to the girl who raised her head but felt inferior, just like before. I'm not talking to you anymore. You're so annoying. Qin Qian, what show are you hosting? Well, I'm so busy right now. I'll tell you when I'm done recording. Xia Qian took the opportunity to hang up the phone. Damn it, she was not going to tell him what show she was hosting. But Qin Fian was not willing to let her know. He hung up the phone. He had nothing to do in G City, so he had a video conference in the morning. Jiang Zhao did not come. Shen Kai was afraid that Xin Xian would feel burdened, so he stayed by her side all day. Grandpa and old Master Pei talked about a lot of things all day long. They talked about calligraphy, Buddhism, and other things that he was not interested in at all. Since he had nothing to do, he might as well find his wife's show and see her style of hosting. Qin Fian called his secretary and asked her to check Xia Qian's show on Channel 3. Xia Qian's body stiffened. She bent over and tugged at her skirt. She wanted to pull up the straps to cover her belly button, but her breasts were exposed. She really wanted to give herself She wrapped herself in a blanket and went on stage. The high stool was really a stool that could make a woman's legs look sexy and slender. Especially according to the design suggestion, when the high heels touched the floor, her legs looked more than 10 centimeters longer. Xia Qian was not used to wearing high heels on the floor. The first time she wore high heels in her life was at Yi Er's wedding. Dear audience, we meet again at midnight. Today we are discussing, have we entered the era of love and sexual independence? This is the new generation of show hosts, Xia Qian. There was a round of polite applause. There were 2 men and 2 women. The 4 high stools formed a semicircle. After the main host introduced the other 3 hosts, they quickly went into the topic of today's show. Qin Fian heard his secretary report that the show hosted by Xia Qian was called The Era of Sex. When he heard that, he was stunned. What show is this? The beautiful secretary laughed. Boss, don't you know? This is the most popular sex show at 12:30 in High City. It specializes in borderline sex topics. Qin Fian's mouth twitched. He repeated, sex topics? Yes, it's about the things between men and women. Of course, there were also discussions about men and women. However, it was mainly a show about men and women. In order to attract attention, the hosts wear very little. Both men and women dress very sexily, so this is the reason for the high ratings. If Qin Fian still said that he understood after the secretary explained it like this, he must have been infected by Xia Qian. He asked so many times to confirm it. She was actually hosting such a show? She was going to be the daughter-in-law of the Qin family in the future. How could she host such a show without caring about her image? Xia Qian, the young people of this generation, especially young people like you, have just graduated from university and stepped into society. How do you differentiate between love and sex? Xia Qian was stunned. She thought that this host was too unkind. The program list he gave her didn't have this question, but now he was asking her a question that wasn't on the program list. Was he crazy? But the tape was spinning. The director raised a sign at Xia Qian that said, "Breaking news. Fight for position." Xia Qian sighed in her heart. Damn, being a host was really not a job for humans. She smiled generously. I don't think there's a need to differentiate. When it comes to sex, the first thing that comes to everyone's mind is to do it in bed. Xia Qian choked and tightened her grip on the microphone. Make love. There's the word love in it. Is there a need to differentiate? Haha, so you're saying that people of your generation think that love and sex are inseparable? Xia Qian broke out in a cold sweat for herself. I think that men who can be separated are ducks, and women who can be separated are chickens. Because they treat sex as work, they don't need love. What they need is money. The director gave Xia Qian a thumbs up and raised a sign. Choose something more casual. You must choose something more casual. You can't be traditional. Then what if you and your partner's sex life is not harmonious? Xia Qian was going crazy. She was a young woman who had just lost her virginity, and now someone was asking her what she should do if her sex life was not harmonious. She looked at the director who was raising a sign at her and kept slapping it. She braced herself and said, when men are in bed, when the lights are off, aren't they all different? What's there to be harmonious? If it's not harmonious, then get rid of it and change. Qin Fian grabbed the phone and felt all the hair on his body stand on end. He shouted angrily at his secretary, Immediately! Immediately! Stop this show. Get the judicial department involved. This kind of show is not legal at all. Songshu 566. Chapter 751. The beautiful secretary was confused by Qin Fian's scolding. But boss, now, don't I know it's nighttime now? I don't know if the judicial department is off work now? What do I need a secretary for? Qin Fian hung up the phone. He was so angry that his head was about to explode. The beautiful secretary had never been scolded by Qin Fian before. This was the first time. What did women say? Usually, even if Qin Fian wanted to punish people, he would use his devilish smile to confuse the audience. He would give you a gentle stab so that you wouldn't feel the pain. But the stab would have already cut off your bonus, removed your year-end bonus, dug out your annual leave and so on. But this time, he scolded her so fiercely that she couldn't come back to her senses. The beautiful secretary thought for a moment and quickly started to think of a way. She made a call immediately. Qin Fian started to pack his ID card and check his wallet. He called Qin Rongfeng. Grandpa, I won't play with you here anymore. I have to go back to Haiqing. Why are you going back so early? Haven't you arranged everything? Didn't you say that you were going on vacation when you came out? Grandpa, how can I be in the mood to play? I'll tell you in detail when I get back. Qin Fian didn't care about his reputation, but he was very concerned that Xia Qian would become the talk of others. How could it be the same? He was a man. At most, others would laugh at him for being gay, that was all. But Xia Qian was different. She was a girl and wasn't married yet. How important was her reputation? People would say that it was fine for her to host the show. But people would say that her skirt was short, her skin was exposed, and she had seen countless men. What did that look like? What did she say? That she could throw a man on the bed? Qin Fian couldn't help but curse in his heart. He didn't live in the Pei family's mansion and always felt that it was very reserved to live in someone else's house. This was good too. It saved him a lot of unnecessary formalities. He just had to make a call and be polite. He put his coat on his wrist, picked up his suitcase and left the room. His long legs strode out heavy and fast. Xia Qian's program was suspended halfway through. The program crew panicked. How could a good program be suspended halfway? The sponsors of this show were paying a lot of money for their advertisements because of the high viewership ratings. What should they do now? The beautiful secretary didn't care too much. She called for him immediately. The only thing she could think of was the background of the Qin family. She didn't dare to look for Jiang Zhao, but she had Jiang Zhao's contact number. In the end, after she repeated Qin Fian's words, Jiang Zhao quickly used his connections to stop the show. Xia Qian got off to a bad start. In the beginning, she was still wondering why she had to host such a lousy show. But now she began to doubt her life. Every almanac in her life had the words, "Everything is unfavorable," written on it. Since he couldn't find a job, he had to ask Jiang Zhao for help. It was not easy for him to start his internship, but he could not come into contact with any substantial hosting work every day. It was not easy to get an exterior master, but it was ruined by Qin Fian's drowning incident. Since then she began her long career of doing odd jobs. Doing odd jobs could have been more mundane, but intentionally or unintentionally she offended many colleagues. It was not easy for the minister to see her hardworking nature and give her a lousy show host. Now her lousy show was ruined. This was because of her work. Her life and studies were not smooth sailing. Her grades were not good and the teachers did not like her. She could not get into university and her sister helped her. She failed many subjects, and her sister finally found someone to help her. She went to a nightclub to pick up a duck, and her sister and Yi Er's man ruined it. She attended Yi Er's wedding and wanted to take back the bridesmaid's dress to make a formal dress, but Qin Fian tore it. She took revenge on Qin Fian, and he smeared chili all over her body. Now she felt her whole body burning when she saw chili. She did not dare to eat chili anymore. After drinking, she slept with Qin Fian. It was fine if they slept together, but who knew that they would end up in a lot of debt? Xia Qian thought desperately, when has my life been smooth sailing? It seemed like it had never been smooth sailing. Xia Qian wanted to drink at a small bar. At this time the bar was about to close. She bought some alcohol, returned to her small house and started drinking by herself. Xia Qian felt that she was useless. She had never done anything by herself. If it were not for her sister, she reckoned that if she were to wash dishes for others, they would not want her because she broke the cutlery easily. The house was given to her by her sister. At that time her sister wanted to give her a big one, but she did not want it. In the end, she could only compromise and get a small one-bedroom apartment of less than 40 square meters. Actually, deep down she still wanted to buy a house with her own ability. But now she realized that this was just a luxurious dream. Not only was her IQ not high, even her EQ was not high. Thinking about this made her feel very depressed. Xia Qian was very drunk. She took the remote control and used it as a microphone. Facing the television, she said very seriously, "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are now broadcasting the first piece of news. Today at 12:30 a.m., a show was suddenly stopped. Everyone is speculating about the reason for the sudden stop. There are different opinions. According to sources who know the truth, it was because a new host called Xia Qian joined the show, causing the show's feng shui to change drastically. Because of the magnetic field, Xia Qian's birth characters were not right, so the show was stopped. Someone knocked on the door. When Xia Qian heard someone knocking on the door, she went to open it. When she opened the door, she was scolded by the man who rushed in. "You opened the door without asking who it was? What if it was a bad guy?" "A bad guy? Is there anyone worse than Qin Fian in this world?" Xia Qian rolled her eyes at Qin Fian. It was not like she had not seen him through the peephole. The drunk Xia Qian was very brave. She was not afraid of Qin Fian. Qin Fian placed her suitcase at the door and closed it. He was exhausted. Fortunately, it was easy to find her place. Her house was really small. Zhuang Yichen was really stingy. He lived in the 9th mansion and bought a large duplex in Qingfeng Garden for his woman. He gave his sister-in-law a bird's nest. He had to buy her a bigger house tomorrow or else it would be too shabby. Smelling the smell of alcohol in the house, Qin Fian took off the scarf around his neck. Seeing that there was nowhere else to hang it, he casually placed it on the back of the chair at the dining table. He took off his jacket and put it on. He wanted to ask about the show, but when he saw Xia Qian's gloomy face, he held back. "Why did you drink?" "To celebrate the sad life of Xia Qian, who had everything going wrong." "How are you sad?" "Aren't you sad? It's not easy to go on a show, but it was stopped." "Oh, I was the one who stopped it." Qin Fian went to the water dispenser to get some water. He was so thirsty that he did not stop drinking. "What?" Qin Fian bent over, holding a disposable cup. He was just about to fill it with water, but he did not like disposable cups at all. The water dispenser was placed on the small coffee table. On top of it was a pink porcelain cup with a big belly. It was very cute. There was also a long stainless steel spoon in it. He pointed at the cup and asked Xia Qian, "Your cup?" "Yes, mine." Xia Qian had already stood up. She was a little drunk and swayed. She asked in surprise, "You said you stopped it?" "Yes, I stopped it." Qin Fian picked up the cup and started to pour water. He drank from her cup. He did not want to drink from a disposable cup. It would make him look like a guest. In the past, when they were in Starfield Town, there would always be some meat left in her bowl. In the end, she would always ask him to finish it for her. During that time when they were locked in the cellar, they had not seen oily meat for a long time. They always felt that they could not get enough meat. They felt that there was nothing more delicious than meat. However, after they left Starfield Town, the taste of meat had completely changed. Qin Fian was still reminiscing about the past. He had just swallowed 2 mouthfuls of water when his head was suddenly hit hard by a woman. It was the remote control in Xia Qian's hand. Xia Qian was not satisfied after hitting him. She jumped up and clung onto Qin Fian. She started to scratch and hit him. You shameless ****. Man. Who told you to stop my show? Who told you to stop it? She was indeed a jinx. She had even stopped such a popular show in the station. This Qin Fian was the ultimate scumbag. Qin Fian spilled the water in his hand. Although it was a wooden floor, the decoration was obviously not bad. The floor was made of raw wood with bright wax. When the water stained the floor and Qin Fian was grabbed by Xia Qian, he lost his balance and fell to the ground. The spoon and the cup fell to the ground. The two of them were entangled on the ground. Xia Qian really wanted to scratch this man until his face was disfigured. However, she could not hit his face every time. She was anxious and angry. She said angrily, "You scumbag." Qin Fian had been rushing nonstop all the way. He was exhausted. Now that Xia Qian was grabbing and hitting him, he was annoyed. He grabbed her hand. The beauty's face darkened. He coldly reprimanded, "You shrew." Xia Qian lowered her head to bite Qin Fian's hand. Once her hand was free, she took advantage of the situation. The aftereffects of the alcohol were strong. She immediately rode on Qin Fian. "I was just hosting a show. What right do you have to stop it? What right do you have? You ****. Qin Fian lay on the ground and looked at Xia Qian's pear blossom hair. She lowered her head to look at him. Her hair covered both sides of her face. Her face was small and her face was red. She looked like an ice egg that had been tired from running. His heart softened and he tried to persuade her. "How can a woman host a show like that? How do you want people to talk about you in the future? I'm doing this for your own good." Xia Qian could not bear to hear his argument. Since when was it his turn to worry about her matters? What did he say? A woman can't host a show like that? There were many women who became popular on that show. She was not convinced. Looking at Qin Fian's beautiful face, she wanted to destroy him. She was so anxious that she clenched her fists. She made up her mind and raised her fist in the air to hit him. What do you know? A good woman can hold up half the sky. She can host any show. Qin Fian caught the woman's fist firmly. With a nimble flip, he turned her around and pressed her on top of him. He pulled her small fist to his lips and kissed it. Looking at the woman's angry face, he said in a low voice, "Then do you know that there's a saying, a good man will never be pressed on top of someone?" As soon as he finished speaking, he kissed the woman's lips. Awesome novel Xingwu 799. Chapter 752. Xia Qian tilted her head to avoid Qin Fian's mouth and spat, "What a good man, my ass. Can a good man be gay? Didn't I already prove to you that I'm not gay?" Qin Fian was implying something and lowered his head to kiss her again. Xia Qian moved her body to hit him. "Get lost." Qin Fian shrugged and let the woman's small fists loosen his muscles and bones. "Get lost where? Get lost where you came from. A virgin was eaten up by you just like that?" Xia Qian was angry. "Nonsense." Qin Fian laughed. "It's like a piece of soap. You wash it until the logo is gone. Is it possible to throw it back on the shelf and sell it again? I'm not a second-time seller. Once it's sold, it's non-refundable." When Xia Qian was stripped naked by Qin Fian and thrown onto the bed, he was still hitting her. Her body was about to fall apart. She thought to herself, if you don't want to return it, then don't. If the logo is gone, you can wash it slowly. Does he want to wash the soap away in one night? She was so anxious that she shouted under Qin Fian, "Qin Fian, get out. Don't press on me. Marry me, I won't press on you." "You're lying." "I'm not lying. If you marry me, I won't press on you in the future. How about it?" Xia Qian was a fool and she was even more stupid after drinking. She was actually tortured by Qin Fian into agreeing. However, Xia Qian said something that made Qin Fian, who had just lost his virginity a few days ago, hate her. Xia Qian muttered after drinking, "In the novels, it's written that having sex is a pleasure. Why do I feel like I'm suffering? I don't feel the pleasure at all." But even if he hated her, Qin Fian still resisted touching Xia Qian when he hugged her to sleep. As long as they got married, he would torment her enough. When Xia Qian woke up, Qin Fian asked Xia Qian to marry him. "Marry? Who promised you that? You said that as long as I don't touch you again, you will marry me." "What? Did I say that?" "That's right. You're the one who said it. Then I'll sleep here every day in the future. If you don't agree, I'll tell your sister that you slept with me. Let's see how she'll deal with you." The matter of the marriage was settled on a sunny and windy morning in winter. In a daze, Xia Qian became a married woman. Qin Fian took a picture of the marriage certificate with his mobile phone and sent it to his close friends and relatives. For a moment, Sea City was in an uproar. Qiu Xiaoye was furious. Xiaoya was so angry that she was jumping up and down at home. She was crazy. How could her sister get married in such a way? Moreover, it was a photo sent by Qin Fian. Her sister didn't even say a word. What was this? She was an elder. How could this girl be so stupid? Getting married was such a big thing. How could she just take her household register and go? Some media outlets heard the news and wanted to buy the copyright of the marriage certificate photo. Qin Fian didn't sell it. The next day he made a front-page announcement, announcing that he was no longer single. At night, Xia Qian sat on the sofa in her small apartment and was forced into Qin Fian's arms. Qin Fian looked at Xiaoya smugly. He smiled and looked at Xiaoya. Sister. Xiaoya didn't know what to say. She thought of a lot of questions but she couldn't get a single one out. Xia Qian didn't say anything now. She felt that she shouldn't be so stupid. This Qin Fian was like a rope that was holding her nose. She really hated him, but how could she listen to him and get married just like that? Shouldn't she be repulsed? But when she turned her head, she saw his eyes. His almond-shaped eyes were very seductive. The light in his eyes was so familiar that it was like asking for her life, ordering her to listen to him no matter what. When Xia Qian saw the light in Qin Fian's eyes, she felt defeated. She felt that he was her nemesis. She must have owed him a debt at some point. They were already married. It was too late to say anything now. Yi was holding her big belly and playing 5-in-a-row chess with Fei Yu at home. Jiang Zhao was beside them, telling them about Qin Fian's marriage. Fei Yu was amused. My brother must be keeping his chastity for sister-in-law Qian. The laughter of 3 people echoed in the house, with a strong sense of blessings. Yi touched her stomach and suddenly felt something bulging out of it. Ah, he kicked me. Jiang Zhao hurried over and touched Yi's belly. He quickly knelt on the ground and pressed his face and hand against Yi's belly. He laughed excitedly. Yunyi, you're amazing. Will the 2 of you fight inside? Turn over. The doctor said it's turning over. Jiang Zhao pressed against Yi's belly. He laughed until his eyes were a little wet. God, turning over made such a big commotion. Fei Yu wanted to pull Jiang Zhao away. Brother, let me touch it. Let me. You've been touching it for so long. Brother, let me. Haha. No, I'll let you touch it tomorrow. When Xiaoya returned to 9th Mansion, she threw a tantrum. Zhuang Yichen felt that he had been giving in to her too much recently. She wasn't so bold in the past. Why are you throwing a tantrum? How old are you? Zhuang Yichen. Xiaoya ran her fingers through her hair and threw her bag at Zhuang Yichen. My sister is already married. I know. Zhuang Yichen was annoyed for a moment. He casually placed Xiaoya's handbag on the cupboard, took off his jacket and hung it on the hanger. He said calmly, the entire Haiqing knows. You promised me a long time ago. When exactly are we getting married? Zhuang Yichen's slender eyes flashed with hesitation. He turned and walked to the wine cabinet. After thinking for a while, he turned back to the living room and poured himself a glass of water. In the past, Xiaoya would pour water for him. Today she seemed to be in a bad mood, so he couldn't be bothered to tell her what to do. After a while, the 4 words were clear. When Xiaoya heard them, she felt that the anger in her heart was about to burst out. Zhuang Yichen, what do you mean? Zhuang Yichen wasn't used to interacting with Xiaoya in this way. The lights in the living room were warm in winter, but when they shone on Xiaoya, he felt an indescribable coldness. He put down the glass, walked over and pulled the woman into his arms. He could feel the rise and fall of her body. He comforted her softly. I said after a while, I promised to marry you. I'll marry you. Xiaoya broke free from Zhuang Yichen and took a few steps back. She looked up at him and saw his dark, handsome eyebrows slightly furrowed. His slender eyes seemed to be reprimanding her for being unreasonable. Xiaoya felt bitter in her heart, and her voice became more and more anxious. After a while, Zhuang Yichen, how long do you plan to be perfunctory with me? I've never thought of being perfunctory with you. Now's not the time. When have I ever broken my promises to you? Zhuang Yichen gradually lost his patience to coax her. He couldn't help but raise his voice. Xiaoya tugged at the corners of her lips. She felt like her voice was blocked by something, and she couldn't continue speaking. She didn't want to mention it in her heart, but the good news came one after another. How could she remain indifferent? Then tell me, when is the time? You came out of the swamp because you promised to marry me, Zhuang Yichen. Yi is a mother now, and my sister even got her marriage certificate. Tell me, when is the time? You're still not going to announce it to the public. What are you trying to do? Are you afraid that I'll take a share of your assets? If that's the case, I'll go with you to get a prenuptial agreement. I don't want your money. Xiaoya felt rather sad when she thought of this. Ye also had a motive for getting close to Jiang Zhao, but didn't Jiang Zhao also treat her so well? Qin Fian didn't seem like a fake either. She had always valued money. She always felt that she couldn't rely on anything in this life except for money. But now that she had finally found a tall, rich and handsome man, he actually wanted to use a prenuptial agreement to get a marriage. Without a marriage, the two of them were together every day. Even though she was now living in his apartment, she felt like she would be kicked out of the house at any time. Ye was married and had a child. Her sister was also married. She was still single. There was a man in bed, but the spouse column was still empty. Xiaoya tugged at the man with a cold expression. Tears almost fell from her eyes. Zhuang Yichen, I want to marry you right now. I just want to get married. You're not even willing to agree to this one condition? What's wrong with me? I don't want your money now. I'm even willing to get a prenuptial agreement with you. What else do you want me to do? Seeing the tears in Xiaoya's eyes, Zhuang Yichen's frown deepened. His eyes seemed to be holding back something. In the end, he just coldly interrupted, What nonsense are you talking about? Wait a little longer. I didn't say that I don't want to marry you. It's not a matter of money. Can you understand my difficulties? Xiaoya sniffled and turned to go upstairs. As she walked, she said, Then let's not talk about it anymore. Since it's like this, I can't continue wasting my time on you. My youth is fading away every day. I can't let my youth be wasted like this. You go do your thing, I'll go live my life. Zhuang Yichen stood downstairs and heard the sounds of things being moved around upstairs. Suddenly he felt that something was wrong. He strode up and saw that the woman had already pulled out her suitcase. The clothes in the wardrobe were piled into the suitcase. He was instantly furious. Little demon Xiao. From Zhuang Yichen's point of view, he really couldn't understand this woman's ridiculous behavior. She was always making a fuss or running away from home. How could she be so good at these kinds of tricks and not be tired of trying them out? Don't you dare walk out of this house today. He exhaled and stood at the door. His posture looked relaxed, but his eyes were sharp and cold as he stared at the woman who was packing her suitcase. Fine, I'll try. Do you think I'm still afraid of you? Now that my sister has Qin Fian's protection, do you think I'm still afraid of you? Xiaoya packed her things in a mess. She took her coat, dragged the oversized suitcase and squeezed past Zhuang Yichen. Awesome novel Xingwu 799. Chapter 753. She was used to dressing sexily even in the middle of winter. She wore a black cashmere miniskirt and black stockings that wrapped around her legs. Although there was a huge difference in height between her and Zhuang Yichen, it was rare that they were well proportioned. She went downstairs to the door and put on a light pink coat. She put on her favorite high heels and unlocked the door. Zhuang Yichen closed his eyes and breathed in and out. Suddenly he heard a click from downstairs. What followed was the sound of a kacha. Damn it. She dared to slam the door. Zhuang Yichen went downstairs and called Xiaoya. Little demon Xiao, don't overdo it. It'll be meaningless if you overdo it. Xiaoya hung up Zhuang Yichen's call and pulled her suitcase to her car. Zhuang Yichen's heart felt empty for a moment. It was as if his feet were weightless. For a moment he was confused. They hadn't argued over anything in a long time. He also didn't like to make things difficult for her from time to time like before. Now he had developed such a bad habit. Women really couldn't be spoiled. Xiaoya threw her suitcase into the back seat and pulled down the hood of the car. Just as she opened the door to the driver's seat, Zhuang Yichen locked the door. Little demon Xiao. Do you have to make a scene? The man's voice was unbearable. Xiaoya looked up at him and hated herself for fooling around with such a man for 4 years. Yes. I said to wait. Zhuang Yichen wasn't a person who liked to explain. However, at this moment he still spoke up and urged her to stay. I'm not waiting. Xiaoya lowered her head and bit Zhuang Yichen's hand. The man flinched in pain. She quickly got into the car, closed the door and locked the central control. No matter how Zhuang Yichen banged on the door, she refused to open it. She started the car and started it in an instant. Zhuang Yichen cursed and ran to his car. This crazy woman. Did she have to drive the car all the time? He swore in his heart. This is the last time. Little demon Xiao, this is the last time I'm going to chase you. Don't be ungrateful. Xiaoya's car drove towards Qingfeng Garden. When she was about to reach Qingfeng Garden, she realized that Zhuang Yichen had bought the house for her. What should she do? Her house was bought by Zhuang Yichen. All of her assets and shops were related to Zhuang Yichen. Not waiting? Of it. of Zhuang Yichen. Where could she go? She could only go to the hotel. She did not want to go to the hotel. She was going to buy a new house tomorrow. So what if she started with Zhuang Yichen? Wasn't she also working hard to earn money? Of Zhuang Yichen. Zhuang Yichen was clearly dragging his feet and refusing to get married. How could a man like him be short of women? Every time he attended her press conference, he would bring a woman with him. He claimed that he was a clean freak, but who knew if he had an affair with those women? Everyone said that Zhuang Yichen was the most mysterious bachelor in Haicheng. Yes, he was the most mysterious. He was so mysterious that she couldn't understand him even though she had been with him for 4 years. Other than knowing that he always liked to press her under him in bed, she didn't know anything else. He liked to be in control of everything. It was the same for everything. Her press conference would be held wherever he wanted it to be. Her interview would be done by whichever magazine he wanted it to be. He never asked for her opinion and only received calls from Li Yong from time to time. Miss Chiu, starting next week there will be a fashion show on the TV station. You will be a special guest and you will be participating in every episode. Young master wants you to prepare for it. He was always like this, making arrangements for her. Being famous wasn't enough. She had to be extremely famous. Other than forcing him to get married, she had never done anything against him, including breaking up with him. He had agreed to it without hesitation. Xiaoya pounded on the steering wheel with all her might. The loudspeaker was suddenly blaring on the road. Zhuang Yichen's car was following behind. He wanted to keep following her, but when he saw her car swaying and the loudspeaker blaring, he stepped on the accelerator and overtook her. The car windows were parallel and he looked to the right. The lights in the car were on and he could see the woman's face clearly. She opened her mouth and seemed to be screaming. As she screamed, she pounded on the steering wheel. The water stains on her face reflected the light. Zhuang Yichen's car drove over and slid down the window of the passenger's seat. After pressing on the horn, Xiaoya suddenly froze. She turned around and saw Zhuang Yichen's car right next to hers. He was shouting something at her. She couldn't be bothered with him. She wiped the tears off her face and stepped on the accelerator. Zhuang Yichen cursed in his heart as he chased after her. This D*MN woman was asking for it. But when he thought of how she had cried so sadly just now, he frowned deeply. He was really confused by her. He had already agreed to marry her. What else did she want? Zhuang Yichen's phone rang. He didn't want to pick it up, but when he glanced at the phone on the dashboard, he saw Xiao Man on the screen. He didn't let go of the accelerator and picked up the phone. It was faint but gentle and not distant. Xiao Man, Yichen, did Uncle Li tell you what I told you? The woman's voice was sweet, like a pear stewed with rock sugar. Uncle Li told me. Xiao Man, don't worry about me and Zhuang Yifeng. I don't care? You're telling me now and you're asking me to not care? The woman's voice was sad. Something is going to happen to Shoreline Phase 3, right? Yichen, you won't put yourself in danger just to mess with him, right? He's not defenseless. It's not like you don't know what he's capable of. Zhuang Yichen stared at the car in front of him. His temples suddenly hurt, and his hands that were holding the steering wheel were trembling. His gaze seemed to skip the car in front of him and look further away. He gritted his teeth and said, "Of course. I've always known what he's capable of. You should stop for your own sake." The woman was a little anxious. Xiao Man, don't worry about it. This is between me and him. The phone was silent for a while, then the woman said, Yichen, I'm settling the divorce with him. I'll tell him in 2 days. Her voice was full of hope and joy. Seeing the car in front turn, Zhuang Yichen said, Okay, I have something to do. I'll hang up first. Sleep early. Xiaoya's car drove into an alley. At the end of the road there was a brick wall. Zhuang Yichen got out of the car and closed the door. He came out of the house still wearing a thin sweater. He didn't seem to feel cold at all. He leaned against the door, but he wasn't as angry as he was in the car just now. His car was stuck in a traffic jam. He wanted to run behind her car? No matter where he ran, he couldn't run away from her. The alley was surrounded by brick walls. Some of the street lights were dark and some were broken. He leaned there lazily and smiled. He was in a good mood, waiting for his little prey to walk into his trap. He saw the little vixen running towards him in high heels. Her legs were wrapped in black stockings and it was extremely sexy. The air conditioner must be on in the car. She didn't wear a coat, and this little dress was really suitable on her. Her curves were really good. Xiaoya rushed over angrily, grabbed Zhuang Yichen's collar, and stomped her feet. Zhuang Yichen, drive your car away. No. Zhuang Yichen was a person who rarely joked outside, and was also exceptionally cold. At this moment, he was smiling playfully and speaking lazily, as if he was teasing someone. If outsiders saw this, they would definitely think that it was big news, but Xiaoyu was not surprised. You're blocking my way. Your car is driving forward, my car is behind you, aren't you blocking my way? Taking advantage of the situation, he hugged the woman's waist and pressed it against him. Xiaoyu tried to break free from Zhuang Yichen as she made a scene. Now my car is going to back out. You chose the road yourself, how can you retreat just because you want to? Just like. The man pushed the woman onto the roof of his car, and then pressed himself on top of her. He lowered his head and sucked on the woman's lips until she gasped for breath. Only then did he say in a low voice, just like this, I pressed you here, how can I let go just like that? Xiaoyu panicked, what are you trying to do? I'll go with you to get a marriage certificate tomorrow, how about that? You're lying to me. I'm not lying to you, I'll use my... He pulled the woman's hand and touched it to his lower body. I'll use it to promise you that I'll go with you to get a marriage certificate tomorrow. Xiaoyu touched that hard thing and quickly retracted her hand. You pervert. Then do you believe me? Zhuang Yichen laughed softly. I don't believe you. However, Zhuang Yichen ignored her and reached his hand into her skirt, tilting it to her ear. He lowered his head and licked her ear. You seduced me to this strange and sparsely populated place. What are you trying to do? Xiaoyu was still in the midst of the angry atmosphere just now. There was actually a place in Haiqing that he was unfamiliar with? Bah. Go away. As a token of gratitude for marrying you tomorrow, shouldn't you cooperate a little? He pressed her tightly and slowly pulled down the thing in her skirt. Xiaoyu was shocked. Zhuang Yichen, are you human? Even if you're in a hurry, you should still go to the car. But I want to take you, little vixen, on the roof of this car right now. Zhuang Yichen could subdue Xiaoyu with one hand. His hand pinched the sensitive part of her lower body, and when he heard the woman hiss in pain, he smiled. Xiaoyu saw Zhuang Yichen's dangerous smile and became even more nervous. At this moment, she heard the man's belt buckle unbuckle. The man's lips kissed her again and he said hoarsely, the next time you dare to run away, I'll take you outside during the day, do you believe me? Xiaoyu didn't know that Zhuang Yichen was serious. One had to know that although this guy would pounce on her in the house, the two of them rarely had the chance to be together outside. Not to mention being so intimate, even kissing or hugging was not something that was possible. She thought that he was just scaring her, even though he had already unbuckled his belt, removed her underwear and raised her butt. However, she also thought that he was just scaring her. After all, he always had the ability to be so calm and collected that he could scare people to death. This time she really couldn't lose to him. When he aimed himself at her, it was too late for her to scream. Add Songshu 566. Chapter 754. There was no one at first, but you called a few people over. I don't care. He pushed her in. Ah. The winter wind was still a little cold. However, the roof of the car was still a little warm. Although Xiaoyu was not wearing a jacket, she did not feel cold at all. Zhuang Yichen did not feel cold at all. He welded himself into her body, rubbing and pressing, listening to her suppressed and excited moans. Such a place made him very excited. Xiaoyu looked around nervously. Looking at Zhuang Yichen, she came back to her senses again and again. She looked up and saw the man's face above her, and the countless stars in the sky were looking at her. You're not allowed to run away next time, do you understand? Xiaoyu breathed heavily. Did you hear that? Xiaoyu shouted after a hard bump. Ah, got it. I wanted to write it in more detail, but I didn't dare to. I heard that it would be very miserable after entering the little dark room, so I could only bear with it. Everyone can imagine it for themselves. Anyway, it means doing it. Xiaoyu registered her marriage very quickly. Although she had moved into Zhuang Yichen's house a few months ago, the two of them rarely went in and out together. Today they registered their marriage. Zhuang Yichen pulled her into the back seat of his silver Bugatti, and Li Yong drove. Zhuang Yichen leaned against the back seat. He was a cool person outside. He was expressionless and seemed a little arrogant. He pulled Xiaoyu's hand as if he was playing with the claws of a small pet. He was nonchalant. Xiaoyu snuggled in his arms. He asked lightly, "Are you happy?" "Yes, I'm happy." "Why did you pursue such a thing? Forcing him to get married, this woman?" Xiaoyu wrinkled her nose and snorted. "Then why didn't you take the initiative to invite me to sit in your car before we got married?" Zhuang Yichen thought for a while. "Xiaoyao, it's not good to be the wife of a rich man. I think it's good to be your wife." Thinking about how they would be entering the Civil Affairs Bureau later, Yi Er said that although the booklet was cheap, it was stamped with steel and couldn't compare to anything. Her heart was filled with sweetness. She hugged Zhuang Yichen's neck and put her little mouth on his ear. She bit her lip and smiled until her eyes narrowed. She said softly, "Yichen, I think I've loved you for a long time. Do you think I fell in love with you a long time ago?" The woman's voice was like a feather, brushing his ears again and again. Li Yong glanced at the rearview mirror and found that the young master, who had always looked cold, was smiling gently. The corners of his lips squeezed the muscles on his face and his slender eyes were smiling. Zhuang Yichen didn't look at Xiaoya. He looked straight ahead and reached out to take the little head on his shoulder. He moved it closer to him. His gaze was still looking straight ahead and he smiled faintly, but his mouth was close to her ear. He whispered, "Change your posture tonight. If you do well, I'll give you a company." Xiaoya slapped his leg. No matter how thick-skinned she was, there was still someone sitting in front of them. If it was someone she was familiar with, it would be fine, but she wasn't familiar with Li Yong. Li Yong seemed to be Zhuang Yichen's elder. How could this guy be like this? What if he overheard? She refused softly, "No way. Change your posture tonight. If you do well, I'll give you a company and personally accompany you to pick out a diamond ring." Xiaoya anxiously looked at Li Yong's reaction. Her ears were burning. She lowered her head and reached out to grab Zhuang Yichen's leg. "Don't say any more. I won't do it." Zhuang Yichen reached out and touched Xiaoya's ear. He couldn't help but laugh. He didn't let go of her head and continued to chuckle into her ear. "Change your posture tonight. You do it. If you do well, I'll give you a company and personally accompany you to pick out a diamond ring. In half a month I'll give you a grand wedding." Xiaoya was stunned for a moment. She suddenly lay down on Zhuang Yichen's leg. Zhuang Yichen lowered his head to look at her. He saw that her back and shoulders were trembling and felt a wet touch on his leg. He raised his hand in the air and after a while, it landed on her hair. He still remembered that time when she met Kang Yiyun. In Kang Yiyun's wallet there was a photo of her. At that time, her hair was long and the flowers that bloomed from her eyes were all lotus flowers. The smile at the corner of her mouth was pure and beautiful. He had never asked her what had caused her to become like this today. At least he had never seen her with her long hair. She had never smiled at him like she did in that photo. Her hair was now just past her earlobes. She liked to wear sexy and enchanting clothes. Her makeup was the same, charming and enchanting. From the first time he saw her, she would move her snake-like waist to seduce him. She would sit in his arms generously. She treated him to a drink, but he was the one who paid the bill. There was a period of time when he wondered why he had never seen Xiaoya Qiu like in the photo. But now that he thought about it, from the beginning the person he saw was Qiu Xiaoyao. In the following 4 years, the woman who was entangled with him countless times was also Qiu Xiaoyao. This demon had already cultivated into a spirit. The Qiu Xiaoya Qiu with long hair and pure eyes was just a synonym in the process of growth. Yichen's external appearance. Her hair was very soft. In his palm it was smooth just like the 4 years they had been together. It was very smooth and smooth. Except for that accident in the swamp, their relationship had always been very smooth. Breaking up did not affect them at all. Agreeing to marry her was something he could not understand at that time. It was just a bed partner. How could he lack one? Not all bed partners were Qiu Xiaoyao. This woman had been with him for 4 years. He had always admired her indifference. It made him feel no pressure at all. But when she said that she wanted to break up without caring, it completely messed up the balance between them. He thought that it was just an occasional mess and that it would be straightened out one day. But after she was in danger on the grassland, it messed up his balance again. She said that before she died, her last wish was actually like that. Xiaoya almost lost control of her emotions when she heard Zhuang Yichen say, "I'll give you a grand wedding." She wanted a wedding. A wedding to prove that Zhuang Yichen had a woman by his side called Qiu Xiaoya. But she was not greedy enough to want a grand wedding. She pinched her arm, thinking that she was dreaming. He said half a month, half a month. She had begged for so long but could not get it, but he said half a month. "Qiu Xiaoya, don't blame me for not reminding you. When we get the marriage certificate later we have to take photos. If your eyes are red then the photos can't be changed." Zhuang Yichen stroked the woman's hair and said slowly. Xiaoya immediately controlled her emotions. When she sat up, she quickly took a tissue and a mirror to clean her face. "You've dirted my pants. What should I do?" Zhuang Yichen looked at Xiaoya and pointed at the wet marks on his legs. He said seriously, "Go back and change." "No." Xiaoya threw the mirror and tissue away and hugged Zhuang Yichen. No. The photos only take the upper body. The pants can't be seen. It's okay. Zhuang Yichen, seeing Xiaoya throw the mirror and tissue away, he could not help but laugh. But at this time he only smiled faintly. But I can see, and it's wet and uncomfortable. How pretentious. How can a man be so pretentious? Aren't my tears salty salt too? Every time you work out, don't you sweat when you go out to play basketball? Aren't they salt too? Your sweat can get on your body but my tears can't? Why are you so pretentious? You're very sharp-tongued. You forced me to. Zhuang Yichen raised his hand and swept it. His slender fingers clasped on his knee and gently tapped it. Hey, what do you think of the conditions I mentioned to you just now? Xiaoya thought about her grand wedding and shrugged. She smiled nonchalantly and said, I'm fine. I'm afraid that you won't be used to it. Why wouldn't I be used to it? Little Ye leaned over and whispered in his ear, if I'm on top of you, will you be used to it? Zhuang Yichen raised his eyebrows casually. Of course. Liar, you've never been used to it. Don't think that I don't know. Zhuang Yichen did not care that the driver was still sitting in front of him. He shook his head. That's because you're not good enough. Why don't I do it? Xiaoya was so shocked that she covered his mouth. Why are you speaking so loudly? What did I say? I only said that your skills need to be improved. You have to be worthy of the gift I gave you, right? Xiaoya thought that it was better to stop talking. If she continued, Li Yong would treat the young master like air, but he would feel uncomfortable with her, the young madam who had suddenly become the young madam. She kept fanning her eyes. When the photo was taken, Xiaoya was very excited. The photographer teased, looks like the bride has succeeded in her marriage. Xiaoya blushed and suddenly showed a hint of shyness. The camera flashed and the photo was taken. The moment they received the marriage certificate, Xiaoya took a photo of it and sent it to Jiang Zhao Yi'er and Xia Qian. She thought to herself, I'm now a married person too. Xiaoya and Zhuang Yichen walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau. Suddenly someone called out to them. The two of them turned around at the same time. When Zhuang Yichen saw who it was, he frowned. Xiaoya also frowned when she saw this person. She knew this person was Zhuang Yifeng. He didn't look like Zhuang Yichen. Zhuang Yichen's appearance was masculine, while Zhuang Yifeng was more feminine. Although he looked good when he smiled, it always made people feel that he was up to no good. Of course, Zhuang Yichen wasn't a good person either, but at least he wouldn't smile carelessly. She had always known that Zhuang Yichen didn't have a good relationship with his family. From Zhuang Yichen's indifferent words, she already had a rough idea of it. As for how bad it was, she had never asked in detail. This was because Zhuang Yichen was a person who was rarely happy. When she mentioned his brother once, his face darkened. She didn't want to ruin their lives. Yichen, what a coincidence. A woman's slender arm passed through the crook of Zhuang Yifeng's arm. Xiaoya knew that this person was Zhuang Yifeng's wife, ex-in man. Zhuang Yichen had inadvertently let go of Xiaoya's hand. When Xiaoya realized that she wanted to hold his hand, he subtly avoided it. Xiaoya was very unhappy. Songshu 566. Chapter 755. Yeah, what a coincidence, Zhuang Yichen replied faintly, sounding very distant. Zhuang Yifeng deliberately sized up the Civil Affairs Bureau and asked curiously, what are you doing here? Zhuang Yichen answered casually, just taking a look. Xiaoya wanted to say something, but Zhuang Yichen turned around and said coldly, take a taxi and go back to the store. Xiaoya was stunned and felt as if something was stuck in her throat. She saw ex-in man holding onto Zhuang Yichen's arm and chatting with him. She didn't know if it was her sixth sense or her own inexplicable feeling, but she felt that the atmosphere was very strange. The way ex-in man looked at Zhuang Yichen was even softer than the way she looked at Zhuang Yichen. Damn it, in broad daylight, in front of her husband and wife, these two bastards were actually flirting with each other. How infuriating. Xiaoya had always met people from the upper class, so she naturally knew that it wasn't easy being a rich man's wife. Of course, she couldn't make a scene when she encountered such a situation. She had never thought that she was Zhuang Yichen's only woman. In fact, she had always felt that she was just one of Zhuang Yichen's many women. However, Zhuang Yichen's scandals never ended. Zhuang Yichen and Zhuang Yifeng didn't have a good relationship and had always been at odds with each other. Xiaoya didn't know the reason, but now that she saw that Zhuang Yichen was only looking at someone else's wife, she suddenly had a bold thought. Zhuang Yichen hated Zhuang Yifeng. Could it be related to ex-in man? As her thoughts drifted, she heard the man's cold scolding, "Why aren't you leaving?" Zhuang Yifeng laughed out loud, "Yichen, it's not good to be so fierce to Miss Chiu." Xiaoya felt uncomfortable being sized up by Zhuang Yichen. Zhuang Yichen didn't give her face, but she couldn't not give him face. She stood elegantly and smiled politely. Zhuang Yichen had never called Zhuang Yifeng and XN Man big brother and sister-in-law, so she thought that she shouldn't call them that. Mr. Zhuang, Mrs. Zhuang, I'll leave first. You two chat. Xiaoya hailed a taxi. After getting in, she slammed the door shut. She reached her hand into her handbag and felt the 2 marriage certificates. Her chest heaved up and down. When Zhuang Yichen was chatting with XN Man, he always neglected Zhuang Yichen. The atmosphere was a little awkward. It wasn't until Zhuang Yichen got in the car that Zhuang Yifeng's face turned cold. He watched as Zhuang Yichen's car drove away. XN Man, there are some things that you can't play with me? XN Man was stunned. She stiffened her back and said, You never believed me. Zhuang Yifeng turned to look at XN Man, whose face was a little pale. Believe you? Do you think I don't know about your relationship? Zhuang Yichen smiled coldly. Tell me, have you slept with him again recently? XN Man's eyes widened. What nonsense are you talking about? Nonsense. Zhuang Yifeng grabbed XN Man's hand. When he saw you, he even chased away the woman around him. Didn't you notice that Qiu Xiaoya was jealous? What does that have to do with me? It means that Zhuang Yichen treats you differently from how he treats Qiu Xiaoya. Zhuang Yifeng tightened his grip, and XN Man cried out in pain. There were people coming and going at the entrance of the police station. Zhuang Yifeng didn't like to be looked at like a monkey, so he dragged XN Man away. When he threw XN Man into the car, Zhuang Yifeng still didn't let go of her hand. He leaned over and said with a gloomy expression, XN Man, Zhuang Yichen hasn't had a woman for so many years. Isn't it because of you? It wasn't that XN Man was unhappy, but she was afraid of Zhuang Yifeng's capriciousness. He has always been like this. It has nothing to do with me. The two of you don't even try to avoid suspicion. How dare you say it has nothing to do with you? Last week you went to Hainan. Did you go with him? Did the two of you go out to fool around? Zhuang Yifeng's eyes were full of jealousy. He had snatched this woman from Zhuang Yichen. He had done everything he could to train her, but now he still felt that this woman could fly. You are unreasonable. Zhuang Yifeng kissed XN Man as if he was possessed. He took off her clothes and muttered, I want to see how much you miss him. The next time you see him, you look like you can't wait to crawl into his arms. I'll kill you. Zhuang Yichen got into the car and said to Li Yong, Uncle Li, have you collected all the information for Shoreline Phase 3? Yes, young master. There are still some left. I am afraid that only Mayor Jiang can get them. Okay, I'll go look for him tonight. Zhuang Yichen held his phone in his hand and pressed the screen with his fingers. He looked at the time and felt that Jiang Zhao should not be free at this time, so he waited for a while until the car arrived. Only when he was downstairs at Stars International did he make the call. Brother Zhao. What's up? Jiang Zhao clipped his phone to his shoulder. He held a pen in his hand and quickly wrote on the note. After he finished writing, he tore the note and passed it to Li Ran. Li Ran looked at it and said softly to Shin Kai, who was sitting on the sofa. Mr. Shin, please wait for a while. Shin Kai nodded and did not say anything. Jiang Zhao continued to work. I'll send the information for Shoreline Phase 3 to you tonight? Zhuang Yichen's question was very tactful. He could not just ask him directly, when are you going to get rid of Zhuang Yifeng for me? Tonight? Jiang Zhao looked at Shin Kai and hesitated. Shin Kai sat on the sofa and shrugged. He raised his right hand and gestured for Zhuang Yichen to go ahead. Zhuang Yichen asked, You are not free? Looking at the generous Shin Kai, Jiang Zhao could not take advantage of him. Okay. Zhuang Yichen thought for a while. How about this? You can send the information to my house. I will settle other things tonight and go back to look at the information. I will call you again. Okay. I will not disturb you from your work. Goodbye. Goodbye. Zhuang Yichen hung up the phone. Uncle Li, help me wrap up the jade pillow that I bought last time. Li Yong was puzzled. That item had cost a lot of money. Are you giving this jade pillow to Mayor Jiang? Zhuang Yichen thought for a while. I don't have any use for this item. Mrs. Jiang is pregnant now and jade is good for her health. The last time we bought this jade pillow, the seller had said that pregnant women will get upset easily. That jade pillow is not an ordinary jade pillow. It can help pregnant women to sleep better. Just send it over. But what if Mayor Jiang does not accept it? It's not up to me. I'll get Xiaoya to do it. Okay. I will go back in the afternoon to wrap it up. Zhuang Yichen nodded and alighted from the car. Shin Kai sat on the sofa and crossed his legs. Mayor, you're really busy. Busy as you? Jiang Zhao was really busy. He does not want to work overtime at night. If he can hold meetings during the day, he will not hold them at night. If he can let the deputy mayor handle the social activities, he will not do it himself. Yes, of course you won't be as busy as me. Your family doesn't have anything to run around. When Shin Kai talked about big things, he also had an indifferent expression. If Jiang Zhao did not guess wrongly, the only time Shin Kai was jealous in front of him was because of Shin Xian. Jiang Zhao signed the last document in his hand. Okay. He put down his pen and walked to the reception area. He sat down. Is the Shin family situation so bad now? It's not that bad. Shin Xian's matter has indeed put the Shin family in a very passive position. Fortunately, the old man has always been a very strong person. The Shin family will not collapse. We have mines in Shaanxi and Yunnan. We just need some time and we'll be able to recover very soon. But right now, recovery is not that fast. Jiang Zhao, on the other hand, admired old Master Shin's courage, and he was more and more impressed with Shin Kai. You came to me so openly to ask about the internal projects. Is it okay? Shin Kai pouted. Yes, it is not okay. If not, you should give up your mayor position for me. Then I will not look for you. Ha ha ha. Jiang Zhao laughed out loud. Let me put it this way. The bidding for the Ocean Bridge project requires a large amount of funds as a deposit. I have an idea. Tonight I'll ask Fei Yan out. You guys can sit together and have a good talk. If this project is taken over by the Qin and Shin families, I feel that no other company will be able to snatch it. Mayor Jiang, tell me. How should I thank you? Before Jiang Zhao could say anything, Shin Kai had stood up and sighed. You should not want to marry me. I will pay for dinner. Jiang Zhao stood up and wanted to give him a punch. Shin Kai quickly took a step back and raised his eyebrows. I am not taking benefits for free. Let me tell you something. Someone reported you and Zhuang Yiqin? Jiang Zhao paused for a moment. Report? Yes. It is anonymous. Shin Kai was no longer joking. But from the contents of the report, it seems that the person who reported you is not very familiar with your situation. I don't think there is any solid evidence. Jiang Zhao laughed. In this society, there will be waves even if there is no wind. Shin Kai knew some things were not suitable for him to know. So he did not ask any more questions and left. Qin Fian called. Brother, come home for dinner tonight. Fian, I have an appointment with Shin Kai tonight. You should join us. Are you serious? I have already told Chen Qian to show off her skills tonight. It's the project of the Cross-Sea Bridge. My time is also tight. You arrange it yourself. Jiang Zhao was still a little annoyed by the matter mentioned by Shin Kai at this time. Therefore his words were a little stiff. Qin Fian could tell that Jiang Zhao's tone was not good. He did not say anything else and hung up the phone. Zhuang Yichen looked at the documents prepared by Li Yong. If it was not for Jiang Zhao, he would not have been able to solve this problem. He would have to create trouble on stage. He did not want to delay Zhuang Yifeng's matter any longer. Now Zhuang Yifeng still wanted to get old Zhuang out of prison? He would not give them the chance to do so. It was not time for Xia Qian to get off work. The minister came over with a smile. Xiao Xia, you can get off work now. Ah. Xia Qian was confused. What? Young Master Fian is here to pick you up. Come and see. Song Shu 566. Chapter 756. Xia Qian secretly sighed. Now that she had a man, the treatment? Was it that much higher? But she didn't want to get off work. Qin Fian was a liar. He said he wouldn't touch her after they got married, but now she was wearing a turtleneck sweater every day. Sitting in Qin Fian's car, Xia Qian didn't like to talk much. Yo, how did you suddenly change from a chatterbox to a scholar who believes silence is golden? Qin Fian laughed as he drove. The car was heading towards the Qin residence. Even though he had a place to stay outside, he had arranged for Xia Qian to stay in the old residence. Old Master Qin lived in the old residence. He realized that no matter who it was, they would give old Master Qin some face. Just by standing there, the younger generation naturally had to be respectful. Xia Qian dared to argue with him, but she seemed to respect old Master Qin, which meant that she wasn't too stupid. Also, Fei Yu lived in the old residence. Fei Yu was obedient and sensible. She kept calling her sister-in-law, which made Xia Qian blush. No matter how much she disliked him, she liked Fei Yu a lot. This thing was meant to attack one's heart. Anyway, he couldn't let go of her soft spot. Why do you care? Xia Qian replied coldly. Ha, you don't want me to care about you. Qin Fian pushed the frame of his glasses up his nose and smirked. Xia Qian was speechless. Who would want to try it with him? I'm going to pick up Fei Yu on the way. You and Fei Yu can have dinner at home. I have a social engagement tonight. When Xia Qian heard that Qin Fian wasn't going to eat with her, she immediately smiled. Okay. Qin Fian's face darkened. You're so happy that I'm not eating at home? Xia Qian didn't dare to be rash in front of Qin Fian now. She could only mutter, I feel uncomfortable with you sitting beside me. Qin Fian huffed angrily. Umph. He snorted. When they picked up Fei Yu was carrying a big bouquet of roses. Many of her classmates looked at her enviously. The car started again. Xia Qian turned around and said to Fei Yu, Xiao Yu, did the handsome guy give this to you? Classmate. Fei Yu was very generous. He said that he wanted to thank me for my help. Originally he wanted to give me perfume lilies or carnations because I was his tutor. But when he went to the flower shop in the morning, they were all sold out. He could only buy roses and said that he would compensate me next time. No way, it can't be an excuse, right? He won't. He's a very honest classmate. Fei Yu was still smiling gently. Qin Fian heard Xia Qian and Fei Yu talking so enthusiastically that he couldn't get a word in edgewise. He was a little annoyed. Why didn't Xia Qian have so much to say to him? Even going to bed with him was like forcing her to death. Until the last moment when she couldn't resist anymore, she had to keep resisting. How depressing. Qin Fian sent Fei Yu and Xia Qian back to the old mansion before driving off. He had to go see Shin Kai. When Fei Yu saw Feng Xing, she smiled at him. Feng Xing smiled back at her, but the smile only lasted for a moment before Feng Xing turned away with a gloomy face. After the meal, Fei Yu carried the flowers back to his residence. As soon as she entered, Feng Xing followed her in and closed the door. Fei Yu turned around and looked at Feng Xing with an extremely unfamiliar expression. Feng Xing. She put the flowers on the table. Feng Xing glared at her, picked up the flowers on the table and threw them on the floor. Fei Yu was shocked. Feng Xing. What are you doing? Feng Xing bent down and picked up the bouquet, handing it to Fei Yu. Fei Yu didn't understand and took it. She hugged it and was about to put it on the table when Feng Xing slapped the back of Fei Yu's hand. He snatched the bouquet and threw it on the floor. Fei Yu was stunned. The back of her hand hurt from the slap. What was wrong with him today? What are you doing? Fei Yu was also a little angry. She had grown up in this house and no one had ever hit her before. How could Feng Xing do that? Her eyes reddened and glistened with tears. Feng Xing sighed and picked up the flowers again. He handed them to Fei Yu with a guilty expression. Fei Yu hesitated for a moment before taking them. This time, Feng Xing not only slapped Fei Yu's hand, but also threw the flowers on the floor and stomped on them. Feng Xing. That's enough. Feng Xing picked up a decent rose and handed it to Fei Yu. In a fit of anger, Fei Yu slapped him on the floor. What was he doing? Feng Xing's handsome face broke into a beautiful smile. He turned and left the room. Fei Yu thought about how she had been slapped by Feng Xing and felt terrible. She lay on the table and couldn't help but cry. The door was pushed open again. Feng Xing held a small branch of red plum blossoms in his hand. The weather was warmer this year and the plum blossoms in the house didn't bloom particularly well. But in Feng Xing's fair hand, a small branch of plum blossoms only had 7 or 8 small flowers, but it looked exceptionally lush. Feng Xing smiled and nudged Fei Yu, who was lying on the floor. He handed the branch of plum blossoms to Fei Yu. Fei Yu raised her head and looked at Feng Xing with tears in her eyes. The smile on Feng Xing's face froze. He squatted down in front of Fei Yu and reached out to wipe her tears. He then handed the flowers to her and lifted his chin. Is it for me? Fei Yu's voice was nasal. Feng Xing nodded. Am I the only one allowed to accept flowers from you? Feng Xing exhaled, his smile still on his lips. Then he stretched his neck forward and his lips fell on the corner of Fei Yu's eyes. After he drew back, he nodded at Fei Yu. Fei Yu froze. The branch of plum blossoms in her hand was still cold. The fragrance of the plum blossoms was right at the tip of her nose. She sniffed. Feng Xing, you like me, don't you? The boy answered her by nodding over and over again. Fei Yu smiled through her tears. That flower was given to me by one of my students who needed tutoring. It's not what you think. Fei Yu stood up and pulled Feng Xing up as well. She stood on her tiptoes and wrapped her arms around the boy's neck. She jumped up with laughter. Feng Xing, I also like you. I also like you. I don't want other people's flowers anymore. I only want the flowers that Feng Xing gives me, okay? Okay. His innocent age and tender kiss was both a test and a desire. Fei Yu dodged, her face burning hot. Then she stood on her tiptoes again and welcomed the boy's nervous and tender kiss. His fair and slender fingers threaded through the girl's hair. Fei Yu said, "Feng Sheng, you can hear me? I really hope that one day you can also tell me that you like me." When Qin Rongfang pushed open the door to Fei Yu's room, his face was ashen. He had lived for decades and he had never been so angry even when Qin Fian said he was gay. His granddaughter. He had once boasted in front of Ouyang Sheng that his granddaughter was so innocent and sensible. Now she was hiding in her own room with a servant. The two of them rolled onto the sofa. If old Wu had not told him that Feng Sheng was a little strange, he would not have come to care about Fei Yu. Fei Yu and Feng Sheng both got up from the sofa and stood up. Fei Yu was so scared that she trembled. She quickly hid Feng Sheng behind her like a chicken. She knew that it was over. The last time she did not allow Feng Sheng to be sent away, she had exchanged her life for it. This time she knew that it was useless. It was unknown whether she could protect Feng Sheng or not. "Grandpa, someone send this Feng Sheng to the police station." Fei Yu saw 4 or 5 servants entering the room and walking towards them. She was so scared that she hugged Feng Sheng tightly. She was afraid that Feng Sheng would leave and that he would be sent to the police station. She shouted loudly, "Grandpa, it has nothing to do with Feng Sheng. It has nothing to do with him. It's me. I seduced him, Grandpa." The servants tried to pull the two apart, but Fei Yu kept shouting that she was the one who seduced Feng Sheng. "Pia?" A slap hard. It was Qin Rongfang's withered hand that slapped her. The servants had already separated Feng Sheng and Fei Yu. When he saw Fei Yu being slapped, Feng Sheng's eyes reddened. He struggled to break free from the people who were holding him down and shouted, "Ah! Ah! Lock Miss in the backyard. Old Wu, call the school immediately and ask for leave. Fei Yu will not be going to school in the future. We will hire a tutor and she will attend during the college entrance exam." "Yes, master." Uncle Wu did not dare to make a sound and quickly agreed. "Grandpa, where are you sending Feng Sheng?" "Grandpa, don't send him away." Fei Yu's face was still burning in pain. She was very weak and could not resist at all. She could only cry and beg Qin Rongfang, "Grandpa, don't send him away. Everyone disperse. If anyone says anything about what happened tonight, don't blame me for being rude." Qin Rongfang turned and walked away. The servants behind him quickly followed. When Qin Fian returned to the Qin family, he was called to the study by Qin Rongfang and told him what happened that night. Qin Fian drank his coffee. "Grandpa, I've thought about this. It would happen sooner or later. It's impossible to send him to the police station. You can only comfort Fei Yu and send Feng Sheng to the police station. Won't you regret what you've done to her?" "What do you know at such a young age?" Qin Fian could not accept what he had seen that night. Fei Yu's room was very big. It was different from the others' rooms. The others' rooms were decorated in a Chinese style. Only Fei Yu's room was decorated in a European style. It was pink and white everywhere. These colors were just like Fei Yu's, pure. But he saw her and Feng Sheng hugging each other and lying on the European-style sofa. She was only 17 years old. When he thought of this, his heart bled. "Grandpa, I'm going to tell Fei Yu now to send Feng Sheng to Jiang District to study. And I won't lie to her. Anyway, she can either send him to the police station and let the Qin family decide on the charges, or send him to the elite school in Jiang District and let her decide. If she doesn't listen, then there's no need to choose. Just send him to the police station. What do you think? Go do it, go do it. I have to take some medicine to lower my blood pressure. Right now I feel very dizzy and in pain." Qin Rongfang waved his hand. When Jiang Zhao returned home, he saw Xiaoye chatting with Yi Er. He also saw a very high-end cloth bag on the tea machine. Inside was a rectangular box. Must be a gift. He had always been sensitive to such things. When Yi Er saw him coming over, she quickly waved at him and said, "Ah Zhao, come and sit for a while. I told Sister Xiaoye, but she didn't believe me." Jiang Zhao greeted Xiaoye first, then said to Yi Er, "What? She didn't believe what?" Yi Er took Xiaoye's hand and said, "Xiaoye, if you don't believe me, ask Jiang Zhao. Am I afraid of catching a cold? Every time I sleep in the middle of the night, I have to snuggle into his arms. Otherwise, my hands and feet will easily freeze. People say that pregnant women have more internal heat. I think it's because I've been releasing some internal heat. It's too serious. I'm a little cold now." Jiang Zhao tried to decipher the meaning behind Yi Er's words. He thought that things might not be so simple, so he smiled at Xiaoye and said, "What's wrong with Xiaoye? Do you have some experience to discuss with Yi Er? She's like that. She catches a cold easily." Xiaoye was a little troubled. Zhuang Yichen said that he wanted to give this jade pillow to Yi Er, but she didn't want to accept it. What was going on? When did Yi Er's body become cold? Or did Zhuang Yichen and Jiang Zhao's relationship fall apart? Yi Er pulled the cloth bag on the tea machine and placed it on Xiaoya's lap. Sister Xiaoya, the next time you come, just come and sit anywhere you want. You don't have to bring gifts. It's such a waste to give me this jade pillow. I don't know how to sleep and I'm afraid of the cold. But let me tell you, I found that you have a set of clothes that looks especially good. It's the new spring collection that you just released. When my baby is born, you can make a set of parent-child clothes for me. Jiang Zhao finally understood Yi Er's intentions. He thought that this girl had matured quite a bit. The jade pillow that Zhuang Yichen gave her was probably worth a lot of money. His dealings with Zhuang Yichen had never involved gifts. All the benefits they talked about were related to business. Yi Er had really grown up. After being framed by Zheng Ling, she was much more careful now. Jiang Zhao smiled and said, I don't have a share in the parent-child set? You can't just make it for them and not me, right? Xiaoya, you can't be so stingy. At most, I'll just give you a few thousand yuan as a token. Xiaoya laughed heartily. You guys are really something. It's just a few pieces of parent-child clothing. But I've never made children's clothing before. Tell me which piece you like next time. I'll find a designer to make a new version of children's clothing for you. Welfare Xinwu 799. Chapter 757. Xiaoya carried the jade pillow home. Zhuang Yichen was in his home clothes. He had just ended a call and saw that she was covered in dirt. He walked over and wrapped his arms around her, asking in a low voice, What's wrong? My wife. Yi Er didn't want it. Xiaoya wasn't stupid. Yi Er didn't refuse it because she was afraid of the cold, but because she didn't dare to accept it. They often exchanged gifts and this feeling was really uncomfortable. Zhuang Yichen, how much is this jade pillow worth? Zhuang Yichen took the bag containing the rectangular sandalwood box and casually placed it on the ground. He kissed Xiaoya on the cheek and said casually, It's only 24 million. Oh my god. Xiaoya trembled. She was scared to death. She quickly pushed Zhuang Yichen away and picked up the bag on the ground. She hugged it in her arms and ran upstairs to find a place to put it away. When she went downstairs again, Xiaoya raised her fist and punched Zhuang Yichen's chest. What's wrong with you? How can you just throw something that's worth 24 million? Is that even jade? Do you think it's a stainless steel bowl? Zhuang Yichen heard Xiaoya's words and laughed out loud. The value of anything lies in its use. If you buy it at a higher price, it won't be worth anything. It's just a piece of rock. He held her little fist and pulled her into his arms. He didn't seem to blame her for not doing things well. What's wrong? Are you in a bad mood? Yichen, are you in trouble? Is Jiang Zhao unwilling to help you now? I've given Yi Er many things in the past. Why is she unwilling to accept this today? Is it because she won't accept it so you can't do things well? It's normal that she won't accept it. Has Jiang Zhao gone back? Yeah, he went back. He came back after chatting for a while. Don't worry about it. Don't think too much about it. By the way, shouldn't you prepare for what we talked about in the car today? Hey. Xiaoya glared at him anxiously. She was still worried about him, but he kept thinking about those things. Hey, what? Didn't we agree that if you do well tonight, I'll give you a grand wedding in half a month's time? Don't you want it? Humph, how could Xiaoya not want it? Even if she saw him flirting with Xian Man, she still wanted it. I'm going to take a shower. Aren't you going to take a shower? Zhuang Yichen leaned against the screen next to him, crossed his arms, raised his eyebrows and chuckled. I've already showered. I'm just waiting for my wife to surprise me. Xiaoya had been with Zhuang Yichen for 4 years. When she was bathing, she thought that even if he had never let her take the lead, he still knew how to take the initiative. It was really strange. After getting the marriage certificate, could she occupy the position that he had always occupied? Did it mean that her status would be elevated? Compared to Yi Er and Chen Qian, her marriage didn't have the blessings of her husband's family, so it was a little strange. But as long as he was willing to marry her, it was fine. Many women in Haiqing fantasized about Zhuang Yichen, but Zhuang Yichen had already promised to marry her, didn't he? Who cared about Xian Man or Xian Teng? Xiaoya finished bathing and got dressed. She put on her sexy pajamas and walked out of the bathroom. She realized that Zhuang Yichen wasn't in the bedroom. Zhuang Yichen. She shouted a few times and then shouted at the top of her lungs. Downstairs. Zhuang Yichen's voice came from downstairs. Oh my god. He wasn't going to bed. Was he in bed? What was he doing downstairs? Xiaoya's purple nightgown was as thin as a cicada's wing. In the past, she used to sleep alone and had never worn something like this. It was uncomfortable. After moving to Ninth Mansion, she didn't have the chance to wear it. Usually, she would be raped by a wild wolf before she could even leave the bathroom after taking a shower. It wasn't easy for her to take the initiative today. She couldn't miss such an opportunity. Xiao Ye's figure was petite compared to Zhuang Yichen's, but it was well proportioned. It wasn't too good, but she was good at dressing up. She always used clothes to make her body look curvy. She knew that her breasts weren't big, so she still wore a black lace bra that was half a bust size. It was a set with her underwear. The pajamas had a V-neck with silk edges, and the tip of the collar just happened to reach the cleavage squeezed out by the bra. Xiao Ye slowly walked down the stairs with her chin raised. Her short hair was straight to her ears and her neck was bare. She was beautiful and slender, and every step she took made her flirtatious. But when she went downstairs, she realized a very strange fact. That man was still standing there, not moving. Even when he saw her dressed so sexily walking towards him, he still didn't move. Shouldn't he pounce on her like before? But look at the way he was standing. He was wearing home clothes and leaning lazily against the screen. He even looked like a hooligan with his arms crossed and tiptoed. The smile on his face was like a gangster who wanted to tease a girl, but he didn't pounce on her. Xiao Ye lowered her head to check her outfit. She thought that if she looked at herself in the mirror, she would have a nosebleed. But did this man swallow all the nosebleed into his stomach? Why are you standing there? Come and hug me. Zhuang Yichen raised his eyebrows and said to Xiao Ye in a seemingly serious manner. Xiao Ye was caught off guard. What? She wanted to hug him? Wasn't she going to seduce him? How do I hug you? Xiao Ye stood at the top of the stairs and looked at Zhuang Yichen, who was standing at the other end of the living room. Hug me like how I usually hug you. Zhuang Yichen gave Xiao Ye, you don't even know this? Expression. Xiao Ye thought to herself, hug him horizontally? Hug him around his waist? Then why did she have to make her outfit so rippling? She could have just worn Ultraman's armor. And she had to hug him like how he usually hugged her? This was too difficult. If she hugged him from the door all the way upstairs, then forget it. Even if she forced her intestines out, she wouldn't be able to carry him. This wedding probably wouldn't be possible. I'm sleepy. Xiao Ye turned around and went upstairs. Zhuang Yichen, who was leaning against the fixed screen, was feeling smug. At this moment he almost lost his balance. Little demon Xiao. I'm sleepy. It's fine as long as we have the marriage certificate. I don't want the wedding. Without the wedding, I'm still Mrs. Zhuang. What's there to be afraid of? Xiao Ye wasn't a lady from a wealthy family. Her personality had always been very carefree. She would pretend to be elegant when she was outside. However, she seemed to have forgotten that she had been raped because she said the word F***** in front of Zhuang Yichen. So when she said, "What's there to be afraid of?" At this time, she had only taken a few steps when a strong force pressed her against the solid wooden staircase from behind and flipped her over. Xiao Ye was in so much pain that she frowned. The corner of the stairs behind her was hurting her back. Zhuang Yichen didn't have any tender feelings for the fairer sex. He pressed against her body and smiled lightly. How dare you reject the gift I said I would give you? Your demands are so high. It's obvious that you don't want to give it to me. I already said that I won't give it to you. I'm Mrs. Zhuang now. What's there to be afraid of? Xiao Ye frowned and snorted. If this man had the slightest bit of sincerity, he wouldn't make things difficult for her like this. He didn't think about his height and his strong muscles. If he put them on the scale, the needle would definitely spin very fast. Yi Er had the ability to carry Jiang Zhao, so she had the ability to carry Zhuang Yichen. Although Jiang Zhao and Zhuang Yichen were about the same height, she was smaller than Yi Er. She didn't believe that she had the ability to ask Yi Er to carry Jiang Zhao. Stinky thing, you're swearing again? Zhuang Yichen frowned, but he laughed. Is this the first day you know? Who asked a young master from the upper class like you to not know how to say it? F****. Then you're a madam from the upper class now. That's right. This madam is going to sleep. If you don't carry me upstairs, you can sleep on the stairs. Are you trying to murder me? Zhuang Yichen laughed and lowered his head to kiss Xiao Ye's chest. So rough. I like it. Master. Xiao Ye wanted to run away. What was he trying to do? Was he trying to fight on the stairs? No. Her back hurt too much. Even if you like it, don't do it here. If you do it on the stairs, it won't be very harmonious. Although Zhuang Yichen agreed, he dragged Xiao Ye down roughly. He dragged her directly to the big flat steps in front of the stairs. There was a whole wool carpet on top of it. Then it's not on the stairs. I already said that you'll do it today. Are you still going to deny it? I can't carry you. You haven't even carried me before and you're already saying that you can't carry me. You're too irresponsible to give up on something that you haven't even tried. Zhuang Yichen's fingers tightened. Xiaoya was in so much pain that she screamed, "Ah, you're crazy." He snorted. This is your punishment. You don't have perseverance and willpower when doing things. You give up so easily. As Madame Zhuang, don't you think that your resistance is a little too weak? My resistance is already very strong. Strong? Zhuang Yichen flipped the woman over and Xiaoya landed on his body. He smiled faintly. Show me how strong you are. Xiaoya was stunned. This change of posture was really fast. This was not bad. As long as he didn't want her to carry him upstairs, everything was fine. Zhuang Yichen smiled faintly as he watched the woman kiss and tease him slowly. The process was too torturous. He wanted her to do something but it was really inefficient. Thus, he ended her slow and teasing work when he was dissatisfied. They rolled together on the carpet. Zhuang Yichen's breathing became more and more rapid. He was already dissatisfied with the movement of Xiaoya's waist. But just as he was about to exert force, the doorbell rang. He wanted to ignore it and at least let him out. Who knew that the doorbell was not satisfied with just ringing, and the knocking on the door became louder and louder. God. No one in the 9th mansion would knock on the door like this unless the house was on fire. Xiaoya's face was also red. She hugged Zhuang Yichen tightly and called out his name in a low voice. Zhuang Yichen's lungs were about to explode. He picked the woman up and wanted to give her a few more forceful kisses. The doorbell rang and the sharp voice of Mrs. Chiu sounded. Daughter, son-in-law, open the door for us. Are you asleep? Hongcha 866. Chapter 758. The lights are still on. Hurry up and open the door for Mom and Dad. Zhuang Yichen gritted his teeth and almost cursed it out loud. Xiaoya was so anxious that her legs were about to buckle. This was a splash of cold water. It would take more than a minute or two to achieve the same effect. When they opened the door, Mr. and Mrs. Chiu were beaming with joy. Xiaoya and Zhuang Yichen were both wearing matching pajamas. They looked unsatisfied and called out with a smile, Dad, Mom? Uncle, Auntie. Mr. and Mrs. Chiu were stunned. They looked at Zhuang Yichen and asked, Aren't you already married? Why aren't you changing the way you address us? Zhuang Yichen realized that he had to address his parents-in-law as Mom and Dad. Sometimes he wasn't used to it. When he spoke he was a little stiff. Dad, Mom. Mr. and Mrs. Chiu didn't mind. It's fine. Let's go in. In the living room, Xiaoya made tea for Mr. and Mrs. Chiu. Zhuang Yichen did not listen to a single word that Father and Mother Chiu said. He kept regretting that he should not have dawdled downstairs for so long. If Xiaoya had returned, he would have eaten her up. When his parents-in-law arrived, they had already finished. But who would have thought that they would still come at such a late hour? Yichen, Mrs. Chiu called out again. Zhuang Yichen snapped out of his daze. Mom. Although Mrs. Chiu was a little plump, she always had a smile on her face. Her skin was very fair and she wore a high-quality pearl necklace that Xiaoya had bought for her. She looked like a rich lady after living a good life for so many years. Yichen, when is your wedding? Xiaoya thought to herself, don't ask. If we don't have sex tonight, the wedding will be over. Mom, the wedding is in half a month. I'll let Uncle Li pick a date. It doesn't have to be a holiday, just an auspicious date. Uncle Li believes in this. Zhuang Yichen listened to Li Yong in this aspect. Even if it was just a suggestion, he would listen to it. When Mama Chiu heard this, she shook her head. How can we do that? What if it's not a holiday? What if you and Boss Chiu's friends don't have a holiday? Then we won't be able to collect as many monetary gifts. No. Even if we can't get enough money, we still have to take 2 days off. Mr. Chiu was a man of few words, but he agreed with Mrs. Chiu. Xiaoya thought that this was indeed a problem. Zhuang Yichen was puzzled. Were there any of his friends who dared to evade the gift money? Those who had been invited shouldn't care about the double day. However, in order to show his respect for his mother-in-law, Zhuang Yichen could only nod his head. In the end, they decided to meet on the weekend half a month later. Zhuang Yichen's mother had a lot of things to take note of during a wedding, but Zhuang Yichen had been waiting for them to leave. In the end, Mama Chiu suggested that they stay over for the night. Zhuang Yichen broke down. Zhuang Yichen said that he was going upstairs to get something. Then he went upstairs and called Xiaoya to ask her to come up. The moment Xiaoya entered the bedroom, she was picked up by a wild wolf. The wolf's claws tore her underwear. Without saying anything, he lifted her leg and pushed his burning desire in. He gritted his teeth and said, "Ah, God, little demon Chiu, I'm going crazy because of your parents. What are they doing here in the middle of the night? What are you doing? Can't you wait?" Zhuang Yichen pumped quickly and panted as he said, "I'm dying of thirst. I'm waiting for them to leave, but they still want to sleep here. They'll be staying downstairs later. Now I can only do you while they're in the living room. Otherwise I'll have a psychological barrier when I'm on you upstairs if they're staying downstairs." At this moment, Zhuang Yichen couldn't care less about harmony. He only wanted to flush out the lava in his body. Otherwise he wouldn't be able to sit still. His goal was so simple. When Xiaoya was about to reach the peak, Zhuang Yichen only cared about himself. It ended hastily. Although she was a little depressed, she didn't have to hold it in anymore. However, Xiaoya held it in. In the past, Xiaoya wanted to live with her parents after they got married. That way she would be very happy. Now that she thought about it, if Zhuang Yichen had a psychological barrier every day, then her husband's day of adultery was not far away. That night, Papa Chiu and Mama Chiu stayed downstairs. Zhuang Yichen hugged Xiaoya several times and was very impulsive. However, just as he was about to squeeze into her body, he stopped. He was afraid that the movements on the bed would be too loud, or that he and Xiaoya would make some noise that the people downstairs would hear. If it was someone else, it would be fine. It was the same for Yannian. However, it was an elder. He felt very awkward. He was thinking, no wonder Yunyi only found out that she was pregnant during the wedding. Previously, Yun Hongwei stayed at Jiang Zhao's house. Was it the same for Jiang Zhao and Yunyi? Were they unable to do anything when they slept on the bed? If they couldn't do anything, how could they get pregnant? Zhuang Yichen felt that he wasn't young anymore. He knew that Xiaoya had been taking birth control pills. Since they were going to get married, then he should have a child with Xiaoya after getting rid of Zhuang Yifeng. However, if his parents-in-law stayed downstairs every day, he probably couldn't have a child. This made Zhuang Yichen very angry. Fortunately, the next morning, Papa Chiu and Mama Chiu prepared breakfast. After eating with them, they went back. Before they went back, they told them to take good care of themselves. If they didn't understand anything about the wedding, remember to call and ask. Zhuang Yichen's heart relaxed. Did calling mean that they didn't have to meet face to face? He finally revealed a rare flattering smile. "Dad, Mom, we will take good care of ourselves. You should take care of yourselves too. If there's anything you don't understand, we will call and ask." Zhuang Yichen didn't tell anyone about the wedding in half a month. He also told Xiaoya not to announce it to the public for the time being. However, Mama Chiu was a person who loved to show off. She told people she knew that her daughter was going to marry the famous Zhuang Yichen, making them envious. After Xia Qian heard about it, she told Qin Fian. Qin Fian told Jiang Zhao about it. Jiang Zhao told Yi Er about it while chatting. Yi Er called Xiaoya to congratulate her. Soon the news spread everywhere. Zhuang Yichen didn't have time to care about it. The problem with the third phase of the shoreline property was a dispute between the property owners and the property management company. The property management fee per square meter for a large residential area with a few thousand households was 1.30 yuan to 1.60 yuan compared to a high-end residential area. After many years, the property owners complained incessantly. In the contract, the property management fee was specified as the amount. The third phase of the property was sold at a low price and quickly sold out. However, the property owners couldn't accept the high property management fee after moving in. The real boss of the property management company was Zhuang Yifeng. Zhuang Yifeng used his connections with the government to suppress the bloodshed. At that time, Jiang Zhao had given Zhuang Yichen an idea to let Zhuang Yichen's people move into the third phase of the house and join the owners' committee. Otherwise, they would not know much about the inside story. As expected, the property owners' committee didn't discuss anything other than the property management fee. The property owners' committee had requested to change the property management company many times, but they were all suppressed by Zhuang Yifeng's people. Zhuang Yichen and Jiang Zhao wanted to work together to remove Zhuang Yifeng's power. However, they had to offend a group of political figures. In addition to the banks, there was also the Planning Bureau, the Urban Construction Bureau, and so on. During this period of time, they didn't have time to set up a trap. Zhuang Yichen was urging them to solve it as soon as possible. Jiang Zhao felt a headache coming on. For half a month, Zhuang Yichen and Jiang Zhao stayed up late almost every day. Jiang Zhao especially had to sleep with Yi Er every day. Then he would video call Zhuang Yichen about the third phase of the shoreline property. Xiaoya would try on the wedding dress she made every day. She dreamed of being a beautiful bride. Zhuang Yichen was a person who couldn't tolerate sand in his eyes. He arranged for people to follow Xiaoya. It was impossible for Kang Yiyun to get close to her. However, Zhuang Yichen never mentioned a word about how to deal with Kang Yiyun in front of Xiaoya. The news of Zhuang Yichen's woman was already shocking. What's more, there were tabloid newspapers that started to research Xiaoya. They listed her transformation from Cinderella to a rich career woman. Some people speculated that her fame had a lot to do with Zhuang Yichen. Many people started to edit the photos and videos of Qiu Xiaoya's fashion shows. It wasn't hard to find that even though different women appeared around Zhuang Yichen, there was always a man sitting in the VIP seat at Qiu Xiaoya's fashion shows. That man was Zhuang Yichen. Xan Man looked at the newspapers. Her eyes were empty as if her soul had been sucked out of her body. Xan Man looked at the reports about Zhuang Yichen. She ignored the man who was slowly walking down the stairs. When she was shackled into a strong embrace, she was so scared that her whole body trembled. What's wrong? Are you jealous? You must be dreaming that one day he will come and take you back from me, right? Xan Man, have you miscalculated? Look at these reports. Qiu Xiaoya suddenly became famous in the past few years because of Zhuang Yichen. Are you still dreaming? Haha, don't you know that the man in your heart is already entangled with that woman? Zhuang Yichen is going to marry Qiu Xiaoya. Do you know that? Have you given up? Xan Man didn't listen to a single word. She just stumbled out of the villa and started the car. In order to show that he got his marriage certificate earlier than Zhuang Yichen, Qin Fian insisted that the wedding be held earlier. Qin Rongfang didn't agree. He thought it was ridiculous. How could they change the date that was set from the beginning? However, Qin Fian said, now that Chen Chen is pregnant, what if she faints and vomits like sister-in-law during the wedding? What should we do? Qin Rongfang was so happy that he almost had a heart attack. After he calmed down, he urged the servants to make new wedding invitations. He called one by one to reschedule the wedding date. Qin Fian got married before Zhuang Yichen. With the title of Young Madam of the Qin family, Xia Qian's career suddenly became smooth sailing. The TV station deliberately arranged for her to host programs with famous hosts. With the special title of Young Madam of the Qin family, even the famous hosts were very polite to her. Awesome novel Hongcha 866. Chapter 759. Xia Qian finally ushered in a turning point in her life. She suddenly felt as if every page of her almanac had begun to write, today is an auspicious day. Everything goes well. She still couldn't remember the past. She couldn't remember that she had once promised to marry someone when she was 12, nor could she remember that she had lost her biological parents the following year. But every time she ate the orange fruit candy Qin Fian gave her, she would crunch it with her teeth and then smile as she sucked in the sweetness in her mouth. She couldn't describe the taste, but she felt that it was especially delicious. It was a taste that drilled into her taste buds and slowly overflowed into her nerve endings. It was a distant yet familiar taste. Qin Fian pulled Xia Qian to see his sugar factory. He stood in the small factory, put his arm around her shoulder and told her, Qian Qian, since you like it, I'll let this factory run for the rest of its life. It'll only make candy for you. At that time, Xia Qian took the initiative to fall into Qin Fian's arms for the first time. When her face was pressed against his chest, she was moved by Qin Fian for the first time and shed tears for the first time. She told him that those were the most beautiful words she had ever heard in her life. She said, Qin Fian, those words should be words of love, right? For the first time, Qin Fian felt that Xia Qian wasn't stupid. He cupped her face and planted a kiss. Qian Qian, do you believe that I love you now? Yes. Is it because of this sugar factory? It should be. He smiled. This girl actually thought that he loved her because of candy. Qian Qian, actually we are deeply in love, but fate isn't shallow. You might understand one day. Don't always doubt me. You should believe that I love you and believe that every word I say is sincere. When Xia Qian was dreaming, her mind was filled with those words. She suddenly sat up in bed when the night fell and dawn arrived. She tilted her head and looked at Qin Fian. His beautiful face was so beautiful. If you and I are not deeply in love, why can't we talk about it? She lowered her head and whispered into Qin Fian's ear, Fian, I love you. Qin Fian's hand was pulled by someone, and the world spun around him. Qin Fian rushed over and howled anxiously, you bastard! Do you have to wait for me to fall asleep before you tell me? If I really fall asleep, you're not going to tell me? Xia Qian's literary cells were beaten to a pulp. She started punching and kicking. Qin Fian. You pervert. Do you want to fight? Yes. You scoundrel. How dare you scold me? I'm an artistic young woman. Li Yong was very against Zhuang Yichen's wedding being held on the weekend. He had taken care of Zhuang Yichen since he was a child, so he was a bit old. When he got older, he was very superstitious. How could Chinese people only choose the holidays and not the almanac when they got married? But Xiaoya and Xiaoya's parents didn't seem to be very keen on this. They were fine as long as they could receive more red packets during the holidays. Li Yong had never been angry with Zhuang Yichen before. But because of this, he didn't take the initiative to speak to him for 3 days. Zhuang Yichen had deep feelings for Li Yong. With his unique excessive respect, he squatted in front of the stool Li Yong was sitting on and placed his hand on Li Yong's leg. "Uncle Li, I know that this matter has made you unhappy, but my father-in-law and mother-in-law have only married their daughter once. You know that Xiaoya has always loved money. When I told her that she wouldn't accept gifts, she argued with me for the whole night because of this. Why don't we just let her be this time? You told me before that Xiaoya doesn't cause any trouble. She has been with me all these years and hasn't made any excessive demands. She was the one who proposed the marriage, so let's do as she wants." Li Yong took a deep breath and shook his head. "Yichen, it's not that Uncle Li is stubborn, but that day isn't suitable for marriage at all." As he spoke, tears suddenly flashed in his eyes. "That's the only wish I have in my life. You don't be so tired. Marriage is a big thing. The Zhuang family has let you and your mother down. When Miss married into the Zhuang family, I heard from the old man that the wedding date wasn't chosen. Think about what kind of life Miss had after she married into the Zhuang family. Young master, just listen to Uncle Li this time, okay? Uncle Li, I'm not a jerk like Zhuang Jingren. It's different." In the end, Li Yong could only sigh and agree to Zhuang Yichen's request. Xiaoya happily drew blueprints every day. For the wedding, other than the wedding ring, the wedding dress and the gown, Zhuang Yichen left everything else to others. She continued working as usual. Every time a guest came to the door, she would always reveal a sincere smile that hadn't been seen in years. Everyone praised her. "Mrs. Zhuang has become much prettier recently. The wedding is approaching and I'm in a good mood. Discount, discount." Xiaoya's smile wasn't exaggerated, but her heart was fluttering. Every time someone called her Mrs. Zhuang, she felt as if she was about to fly into the sky. One had to know that her clothes were all custom-made, and there had never been a discount. Even when a bride came to order a gown, if she was familiar with it, she would directly give it to her for free when she was in a good mood. Zhuang Yichen generously entered Xiaoya's studio and was surrounded by a group of wealthy madams. "Young Master Zhuang, you're getting more and more handsome." Zhuang Yichen rarely showed his emotions in public. At this time he glanced at Xiaoya, who was taking measurements for the guests in the gown area, and smiled. All of a sudden, many women who had secretly fantasized about him were overjoyed. They were dizzy and disoriented, and they kept praising Miss Chiu for her good fortune. When Xiaoya noticed this, she hurried over. Zhuang Yichen was usually extremely cold. He would either glare coldly at people and turn to leave without giving them any face, or just like now, standing in the middle and being polite without saying anything to people. He wanted to get away, but he didn't know how to get away from the group of women in a polite way that didn't offend them. It seemed like he really went back in time. Xiaoya hooked her arm around Zhuang Yichen's arm. After greeting the group of madams, she pulled him upstairs. "Why are you here?" Zhuang Yichen finally relaxed and let out a sigh of relief. In the past, when he came in through the back door, he really didn't have to worry about this at all. He casually picked up a piece of fabric and looked at it. It was hard to imagine how Xiaoya could turn it into a beautiful gown. "I'm here. If I don't come over, are you going to get into debt?" "What debt?" Xiaoya poured herself a glass of water and gulped it down. Zhuang Yichen naturally took the glass in her hand and gulped down a mouthful of water. He was very thirsty. "I heard that you've been giving out a lot of gowns recently." "Oh my God. Dear, you even care about this? How much does it cost me to give out some clothes? How can I get into debt?" "You're a person who values money as much as your life. How can you be willing to give out clothes at a discount? Is there something wrong with your brain? The rumors are spreading like wildfire now. You're now the goddess of wealth. A gown usually costs at least tens of thousands. How can you be willing to give it away?" Xiaoya pursed her lips. She obviously didn't want to talk about this anymore. With a face full of regret, she said, "Okay, let's not talk about this anymore. I regret it every night. But when I come here in the morning, when people praise me and wish me well, I can't help but promise to give them things. After giving them away, I regret it. When you say this, my intestines are green with regret." Zhuang Yichen put down the glass. Looking at her expression, he really didn't want to talk about it anymore. He hugged her in his arms. "Okay, give it away. If you're in debt, I'll help you pay it back." For some reason, his eyes caught a glimpse of her work table. There was a bottle of something in the drawer below. He frowned. Don't take that medicine anymore. When your body is well, we can be like Jiang Zhao and have a baby. Xiaoya was delighted. Really? Really? You can't have a baby even if you stop taking the medicine. You have to use protection in the middle. Are you willing? What's there to be willing about? It's what I should do. You can buy it for me tonight. You know best. His breath scattered on her lips. Her heart palpitated and she kissed him back. When she let go of him, she choked and said, Ichin, I've finally finished my long-distance run, haven't I? Yes, you've reached the finish line. He continued to entwine his tongue with hers. Xiaoya thought that these few years hadn't been wasted. Her youth hadn't been wasted. In the end, she was luckier than others. How many women in the world could become official after being an underground prostitute? Even if there were, they were very few. But now, she was also one of those few people. She once thought that she was unlucky. Thinking about it, she was really lucky. If she hadn't boldly sat on him back then, if she hadn't given up on herself, how could the current Zhuang Yichen be her husband? Xiaoya was the seductive Xiaoya. That period of inexperience had long passed. She was already used to her current self. 4 years ago, when she moved her waist and sat in his arms, hooked her arms around his neck, and invited him to drink. At that time she was the seductive Qiu Xiaoya. She had already forgotten what a gaze as clear as water should look like. She only knew that he seemed to like that look of hers a lot. She felt that he liked that kind of seductive Qiu Xiaoya. Thus, she allowed herself to translate the seductive look even more deeply into the wood. Although they were rarely together, and when they were together they were in bed. But every time he gritted his teeth and breathed out the 3 words, little demon Qiu, on her body, she was extremely happy. Her legs were always able to wrap around his body like vines. At the backstage of the press conference, he hid from the crowd and blocked her, pressing her against the wall. You know that you're going to be on the runway today, yet you're still wearing such a short skirt. She hooked her legs around his waist. Isn't it just to make it easier for you to take it off at night? He flipped her over and pinned her against the wall. He easily lifted her skirt and hugged her from behind. He used all his strength to push against her nerves. At this moment he lifted her skirt again. But after a passionate kiss, he stopped and endured with difficulty. Little demon, remember to buy it tonight. Xiaoya's face was flushed red and her eyes were watery. She was full of desire. Come and see. Hongcha 866. Chapter 760. I shouldn't have kissed you at a time like this, you vixen. Zhuang Yichen thought bitterly. This woman was born to seduce men. It was just a kiss and she wrapped her legs around him. Didn't she know that her skirt was so short? She could have pressed her legs against his if she raised them. This crazy woman. What a bitch. He thought about how he had just told her not to take medicine. If he wanted to have a child, it had to be a healthy one. If it wasn't for this, he would have done it with her on the workbench like last time. Zhuang Yichen finally put down Xiaoya's legs. After Xiaoya calmed down, she giggled. Look at you. Zhuang Yichen said coldly, Little vixen Qiu, you're very proud of yourself. Ah, this is the first time I've seen you restrain yourself like this. How can I not be proud? Xiaoya said as she tugged at the corner of her skirt. She lifted her butt and sat on the workbench with her legs crossed. She supported herself with one hand on the workbench and the other hand caressed her leg as she chuckled. Looks like you won't stop until you let me have sex with you here today. Zhuang Yichen clearly saw Xiaoya's seductive gaze. From the age of 21 to 25, she had practiced this gaze more and more. It was as if there was a delicate hand in her eyes, reaching out with her index finger and hooking him. When Xiaoya was pressed down this time, she thought that Zhuang Yichen would be able to hold it in. However, he had already rushed in and said in a low and rough voice, I'll get you outside. You're not allowed to take medicine. You have to give birth to a healthy son in the future. How do you know that I'm not giving birth to a daughter? If I don't give birth to a son, who will inherit my family business? She panted and said angrily, You value boys over girls. Yes, give birth to a son for me. After Zhuang Yichen left, a woman came to Xiaoya's shop. She asked Miss Qiu to design a dress for her. It was Xian Man. Even though Xian Man had put on makeup, tied up her hair, and dressed very tastefully, her eyes couldn't hide from Xiaoya, who had seen countless people. In Xiaoya's eyes, Xian Man was incomparably haggard. Miss Qiu, let's talk. Xian Man went straight upstairs. Are you talking about my husband? Xiaoya stood in the same place, stretched her arms, and stood there leisurely, asking with a smile. Xiaoya was not Yi Er. She was old and had experienced a lot. She was not as calm as she appeared on the surface, but she was strong on the inside. She was jealous, but she didn't panic. In her eyes, Xian Man was nothing. She knew Zhuang Yichen well. He was a clean freak. How could he be interested in a woman who had slept with someone else? She didn't believe that Xian Man didn't have sex after marrying Zhuang Yichen. Zhuang Yichen was a person who couldn't tolerate sand in his eyes. The reason why she had lived a peaceful life for the past few years was because she had never accepted any man's love. She only found out about this later. Zhuang Yichen must have sent someone to follow her. Otherwise, with his clean freak personality, she really didn't know what the consequences would be if she messed around outside. Even when she went to a nightclub to look for a prostitute, he chopped her up before she even slept with him. Moreover, they had already broken up at that time. He would never allow himself to share a woman with another man. Fortunately, she had been clean all these years. Was that why Zhuang Yichen saw her in a different light? She looked at Xian Man's figure walking upstairs and smiled with a hint of mockery. Miss Xian is so generous. You don't care about trifles. Xiaoya misunderstood that Miss Xian is a well-mannered person from a wealthy family. Xiaoya hated Zhuang Yichen to death. Why did he have to take the surname Zhuang? She didn't want to call Xian Man Mrs. Zhuang at all. Xian Man's footsteps froze. She turned back to look at Xiaoya. She was mocking her. I don't think it's convenient to talk downstairs. If you want to talk about my husband, you can do it here. During this period of time, the guests who come and go always want to talk about him. I talk about him once a day. It's not a secret. Xiaoya's indifferent and calm manner made Xian Man feel disgusted. Miss Chiu, are you afraid to talk to me? Talk about what? Talk about whether you have slept together before? How many times did you do it in a night? Or what did he give you before? What promise did he make? Xiaoya burst into laughter. She deliberately laughed like a prostitute. Please, from the first day I slept with him, I knew that he wasn't a virgin. When he slept with me, I knew how many times he could do it in a night. Apart from this physical body, everything else I have now was given to me by him. He has given me so many things that I can't even count them. Last week he promised me to get a marriage certificate. The next day he went to the Civil Affairs Bureau. He promised me that we would get married in half a month. Or next week. Why do I still want to hear about your romantic history? Is it more exciting than mine? Xian Man looked at Xiaoya's arrogant reply and suddenly lost her sense of propriety. She turned around and stopped going upstairs. Instead, she walked to Xiaoya's side. Her hand holding her handbag was trembling. She gritted her teeth and said, How can he like a woman like you? You're like a prostitute. Me? How can I be a prostitute? Xiaoya stretched out her index finger and pointed at the bridge of her nose. She glanced at Xian Man indifferently and turned her head. There were many large mirrors in her shop. If a customer came out in a gown and stood in the middle, they could see the reflection in all directions. At this time she walked to the wall and looked at herself in the mirror. She raised her chin and stroked her hair. There was a hickey on her collarbone. She touched it and rubbed it. She thought to herself, that guy is really immoral. It's as if he's afraid that people don't know that I was slept with by a man in the shop today. Xian Man also noticed that Xiaoya was touching the hickey. She thought that if she kept helping Zhuang Yichen, he would marry her when Zhuang Yichen fell. However, Zhuang Yichen was about to marry another woman. She never knew that Zhuang Yichen had another woman. He actually hid Xiaoya so well. She was jealous. Aren't you? You said it yourself. Apart from this physical body, everything else you have was given to you by him. Everything you obtained was from selling. Xiaoya turned around again. She leaned against the wall mirror. Today she was wearing a dark purple one-piece dress. It was made of an elastic material that hugged her body, revealing her slender neck and exquisite collarbone. There was a sparkling diamond necklace that Zhuang Yichen had put on for her before he left. The black stockings on her legs made her legs look slender and sexy. No matter how cold the wind was outside, it had nothing to do with her. She usually exercised in the room. When she went out, she only needed to put on a coat. She only needed to walk a short distance before she could drive. There was air conditioning in the car. When she reached home, there was also air conditioning. Even in winter, she was wearing spring and autumn bareback shoes, inlaid with luxurious rhinestones. She lifted her feet backward and pressed them against the mirror. Her arms were spread out on the mirror. This was an unconcealed movement as if she was showing off herself. Xiaoya's confidence came from the cracks of her bones. She had many years of experience on the runway. It could be said that for all these years, except for Zhuang Yichen, she looked up to others. She looked down at everyone else on the runway. Who was Xian Man? Old Qing? She even had an old Qing. Seeing Xiaoya displaying herself like this, Xan Man got even angrier. "You slutty vixen." Xiaoya laughed. "Xiao Man," she pretended to be intimate and called her. "Don't talk nonsense. My husband loves me like this. He likes it when I pester him like a little vixen. You don't know this, do you?" Xan Man breathed heavily. He once said that he would not have other women. He also said that he would not think about those romantic things before he took revenge. However, how could the Zhuang Yichen that came out of Xiaoya's mouth be like this? He was like a man who was addicted to sensual pleasures. He was definitely not the man she knew. Xiaoya looked at Xan Man, who was so angry that she could not stop laughing. She patted her hand under her collarbone as if she needed to calm down. She smiled enchantingly. "Besides, although everything I have is given by my husband, it can't be considered as a slut. Look at me now. I'm so rich. Even if I don't marry him, I can't be compared to you rich madams. I'm rich. What's the saying again? Wealth can't be slutty." Have you heard of this saying before? Xan Man did not expect that she would be speechless by Qiu Xiaoya without saying anything. How could Zhuang Yichen like such a woman? It was impossible. Zhuang Yichen liked women like Mother Zhuang. They were quiet and intelligent. Qiu Xiaoya was a gold digger. Zhuang Yichen hated such a woman. How could he marry her? There must be a conspiracy. There must be. She should support him unconditionally. Hadn't she always done so? She had always helped him. She was the one who had always helped him. What was this Qiu Xiaoya? She could not ruin any of his plans. She would not be a woman who got in his way. She looked at Xiaoya and finally exhaled. She smiled faintly as if she had already won. "I'm looking forward to the day when he abandons you." This was the most powerful and confident sentence Xan Man had said before she left. Her confidence shocked Xiaoya for a moment. She suddenly realized that she had been kept in the dark about something. When Zhuang Yichen returned to the company, he contacted Jiang Zhao. Jiang Zhao had collected information about the people in charge of the banks involved in the third phase of the Shoreline project, the people in charge of the planning and approval department, as well as the background of these people. He looked through them one by one and made notes on which were steamed buns, which were stones, which were iron, and which were steel. He used markers of different colors to mark them according to their level. Some could be eaten directly, some had to be smashed, and the harder ones had to be smelted. "Hello." He picked up the phone and did not forget about the work at hand. "Brother Zhao, is the information ready?" Zhuang Yichen sat at his desk and played with a small square gift box in his hand. There was a diamond brooch in the box. He liked to buy this kind of thing recently. In the past he never needed to give her a gift. Now that they were together in public, it seemed that he had not given her enough. Awesome novel Xinwu 799. Chapter 761. Yichen, I don't think it's going to be easy. This matter involves the Public Security Department. As you know, the Public Security Department has always been a difficult place to deal with. On the surface, it looks like a bank loan and a property management company inducing them to raise property management fees. But every time something happens, it's the higher-ups from the Public Security Department who handle it. I think we have to change the situation at the Public Security Department this time in order to get rid of him successfully. Zhuang Yichen thought for a moment and placed the box in his hand on the office table. Zhuang Yifeng definitely has more than just a mafia background. Otherwise, with so many nightclubs in High City, why hasn't anyone investigated him? Let's not talk about this for now. We've already wasted so much time. I want to know when we can make a move. Before your wedding. In the next few days. Jiang Zhao didn't want to drag this matter on. After all, some conditions had already been agreed upon. Logically speaking, he owed Zhuang Yichen a favor. If this dragged on, when Yi Er gave birth to the baby, he would have a hard time dealing with this matter. He didn't want that to happen. Zhuang Yichen nodded. All right then. Send me a copy of the information from the Public Security Department. I'll set the trap. Don't get involved. This was the rule between them. Zhuang Yichen always did the dirty work. Okay, I'll send it to your mailbox after I'm done reading it. That night, Xia Qian went to Ninth Mansion and imparted her experience to Xiaoya on what to look out for during the wedding. Xiaoya couldn't be bothered to listen. The things that her younger sister said weren't reliable at all. In the past, she would listen to everything her younger sister said. But now, after marrying Qin Fian, she became a teacher. From time to time, she would glance at the entrance. Zhuang Yichen hadn't returned yet. The closer they got to the wedding, the more uneasy Xiaoya felt. She asked Xia Qian, Qian, were you nervous when you had the wedding? No, Why? Because I was forced to get married without knowing anything. Then the wedding wasn't discussed with me. I still hosted my show and didn't care about anything. Xiaoya hugged a pillow and curled up on the sofa. I didn't care about anything, but why was I nervous? Xia Qian thought for a moment. Because you wanted to marry Zhuang Yichen, but I didn't want to marry Qin Fian at the time. Xiaoya finally felt that her younger sister wasn't acting like an idiot anymore. She was actually able to say such philosophical words. Qian Qian, you really are a smart doryman. Xia Qian smiled proudly. Yes, Qin Fian also praised me recently, saying that I'm much smarter. Xia Qian's she to be a good girls with wits. To hurt she. He's so good that I think he must have been struck by lightning. You know how much he hated me in the past. Xia Qian still didn't dare to face this problem. It was as if the world had flipped upside down overnight. Everything was against the norm. Xiaoya laughed and punched Xia Qian's leg. Isn't that good? Everyone says that Qin Fian is the best man in High City. In the past they always said he was gay. Now he's a man who can't be any better. You say he's gay, but the problem is there's no sign of a boyfriend. Everyone says that he was born for you. She used to object to Qin Fian, but it didn't seem like he was lying. If it was a lie that everyone believed, then it must be the truth. Xia Qian listened, but she didn't laugh as happily as Xiaoya. Sis, do you think Qin Fian and I knew each other in the past? Xiaoya was stunned. Why do you say that? Don't think too much. Sis, you know that Qin Fian is very good looking. He's different from brother-in-law and Jiang Zhao. His good looks make women feel inferior. His skin is soft and tender. Especially when he's nice to me, he snuggles into my arms and acts coquettishly. Oh my God, you don't know. I have goosebumps. He's taking away my self-esteem as a woman. Xia Qian frowned as she spoke. Xiaoya laughed out loud and hit Xia Qian's head with a pillow. Then she quickly hugged the pillow in her arms. So many people are jealous that you've taken in such a good-looking man. You still have goosebumps. Xia Qian shrank back and didn't fight back. She also hugged the pillow. The pillow was bigger. She crossed her legs on the sofa and knocked her chin on the pillow. She shook her head. No. Just let me finish. She found that she had become more and more silent recently. It seemed that she couldn't be happy. She often tried to make herself as happy as before, but she couldn't do it every time. She didn't know if it was because she had a lot of work now and was starting to worry. People say that people grow up when they work. Is this the trouble of growing up? Xiaoya looked at Xia Qian's serious face and stopped teasing her. She sat up straight and prepared to listen to her seriously. Go ahead. Sis, when he snuggled into my arms, I felt that he had done this to me a long time ago. The goosebumps weren't the kind of disgust. I seemed to have a kind of telepathy. I felt that he had done this to me before. Do you think it's possible that he knew me a long time ago? He also acted coquettishly with me before. But I don't remember it all. I've been thinking about this question recently. Now, whenever I mention the name Qin Fian, I feel very conflicted. Sometimes, when he wakes up in the morning and stands at the head of the bed and grins at me, my brain feels like it's been hit by a stick. It hurts so much. As Xia Qian spoke, her hands were already pressing down on her temples. Xia Qian rubbed her temples. Xiaoya suddenly realized that there were some topics that she couldn't talk about. She had told Qin Fian not to mention Xia Qian's past. Although Xia Qian was often ridiculed, she was very happy. Every day she wu. If she remembered the fire, the heartless Xia Qian would never appear again. Qian, how many red packets did you receive at the wedding? Xiaoya changed the topic. Seeing Xia Qian's eyes suddenly light up, she felt relieved. Red packets? Actually, I don't even know how many red packets there were. Qin Fian saved all the red packets and gave me his card. Until now, I haven't checked how much money was in there. Xia Qian snorted. I wanted to save myself the trouble and didn't want to check. I asked him how much money there was, but he didn't say. He said that I'm stupid and don't know how to count money. I used to work a lot to earn money. Why am I not interested at all when he's giving me so much money now? How could Xiaoya not know that Xia Qian's pursuit of money had always been different from hers? It was already good enough that she could tell how much money she had spent and earned today. How could she ask her to manage money? That was simply daydreaming. Dream on. Then I'll have to count the red packets I receive properly. I won't be like you. When the doorbell rang, Xiaoya shuddered. She threw away the pillow in her hands and jumped off the sofa. However, when she opened the door, she was disappointed. The person who came was not Zhuang Yichen, but Qin Fian, who was dressed in a flashy outfit. Qin Fian impolitely called out, sister. Then he went straight into the house, changed his shoes and went to look for Xia Qian. Qian Qian, let's go home. Qin Fian pulled Xia Qian. I want to sleep at my sister's house tonight. Xia Qian didn't want to go home with Qin Fian. This man must have not touched a woman for hundreds of years. Every day after coming home, he would take a shower and press her down on the bed. They hadn't been married for long, but she felt like she was going to die every day. How can that be? When brother-in-law comes back, it'll be inconvenient for you to stay at his house. Qin Fian sat on the sofa and hugged Xia Qian. He kept winking at her, hinting that Xia Qian would be a hindrance to their married life. Xia Qian didn't understand his hint. Why would it be inconvenient? Qin Fian was about to explain in her ear, but Xiaoye said unhappily, when your brother-in-law comes back, he wants to kiss you. Your brother-in-law wants to be intimate with me. Are you going to sit here and watch? She was very upset because of Xian Man today. Now Zhuang Yichen hadn't come back, and Qin Fian came to find Xia Qian. The young couple didn't care about her feelings at all, as a woman whose husband was not at home, and they were playing with each other. Qin Fian wanted to say that, but Xiaoye said it first, so he was embarrassed. This big sister was too bold, wasn't she? Xia Qian blushed. You can do it upstairs. I'll sleep in the guest room downstairs. Go back. If you really stay here, your brother-in-law will hate you to death. Speaking of this, Zhuang Yichen would say that he had a psychological barrier. He was even unhappy that his parents were staying here, let alone his sister-in-law. After Xia Qian was driven away, Xiaoye picked up the phone and called Zhuang Yichen. In fact, she didn't have the habit of calling him. She had been like this for the past few years, but it was different now. She was his wife. Even Qin Fian knew to stay up until midnight to ask his wife to go home, so it was only right for her to ask him. His phone was off. Xiaoye almost smashed the phone. As Qin Fian drove, he could feel that Xia Qian was unhappy in the passenger's seat. She had been like this for the past few days. They had only been married for a few days, but every day she acted as if someone owed her money. She wasn't like this in the past. She was always smiling or saying things without thinking. Recently she had become very quiet. Whenever he thought of her sleeping at his sister's house despite being married, he was unhappy. They were still newlyweds. Although they didn't go on a honeymoon, it was because Zhuang Yichen and Xiaoye's wedding was coming up. They couldn't go out at this time. If they didn't go on a honeymoon, wouldn't they still be newlyweds? Shouldn't newlyweds stick to their husbands when they are newlyweds? However, he couldn't say it out loud. He had to be more tactful. Qin Qian, how many times have I told you? Girls shouldn't stay out so late. Did you even listen to me? Xia Qian retorted, I'm at my sister's house. What's wrong? Qin Fian choked. He pushed his glasses up the bridge of his nose. It's already midnight. What's wrong with you? You're not single now. If you don't go home, Grandpa will ask all night. He will think that we fought. Awesome novel, Hongcha 866. Chapter 762. Hearing Qin Fian bring up old Master Qin, Xia Qian fell silent. In fact, everyone in the Qin family treated her very well. They didn't mind that she was a fool outside at all, and they all flattered her. Even old Master Qin was very polite to her. He often came over to ask her what she wanted to eat for breakfast. To be honest, she had never been cared about like this before. Although her sister's family treated her well, they had never been so considerate. Her voice lowered. I'm sorry. I'll apologize to Grandpa when we get back. Qin Fian smiled. Sure enough, Grandpa's words were useful. He glanced at his little daughter beside him. Her hair still only reached her shoulders. Her hair was not very thick. It was soft. Her hair was permed, making it look a little hairy. She always said that she was not pretty. Actually, in his eyes, she was prettier than anyone else. So what if she had plastic surgery? It was pretty good. The tip of her nose was still hot and sweaty. When she smiled happily, her eyes were still very bright. When she chewed on the candy with her small white teeth, it made a crunching sound. His heart softened. It's okay. I'll go talk to them later. Don't do this next time, okay? Xia Qian nodded. Okay. When they returned to the Qin residence and entered the room, Xia Qian was a little afraid to take a shower. Nothing good would come out of the shower. Qin Fian saw her hesitation and pushed her. Go take a shower. I don't want to take a shower. Xia Qian took off her jacket and wanted to get on the bed. It's not summer anyway and I'm not dirty. I don't want to take a shower today. If she did not want to take a shower, she would not feel uncomfortable. Qin Fian saw Xia Qian shrinking her head and burrowing into the blanket. How could she not take a shower? She was taking a shower. He pulled the blanket aside and pulled her up. You cannot take a shower. Qin Fian, my body is not good enough. I'm not good looking. Can't you find another woman to do it with? Qin Fian's face darkened. What nonsense are you talking about? She actually asked him to find another woman. How could she say something like that? Didn't she find it hurtful? Xia Qian angrily pulled the blanket over her head. She was about to cry. I don't want to sleep with you. I'm so annoyed. These words dealt a heavy blow to Qin Fian. It had only been a week since they registered their marriage and got married. It was really too fast. He thought that he had deep feelings for her, and it could even be said that he was dependent on her. However, there was no man who did not want his wife to affirm his ability, including in bed. But she said she didn't want to sleep with him. It was so annoying. She was bored with him. He wondered if she had no feelings for him. Or were they not satisfied with his ability? That day she clearly said that she loved him when he was asleep. He was so happy that he almost strangled her to death. Every time they reached the end, he could still hear her moans. Why was it so annoying? The more he thought about it, the more he felt hurt. He pulled the blanket away and said in a small voice, Qian Qian, do you despise me? Xia Qian turned her face away. I don't want to sleep with you. They had only been married for a little over a week and she was most afraid of nightfall. She was terrified at the thought of him insisting on taking her body. Qin Fian's face darkened. You despise me for not being big enough? Get lost. Xia Qian gritted her teeth and threw a pillow at him. Damn it, I'm so full. How big do you want me to be? Get lost. Qin Fian laughed. Not enough time? Damn it. I'm going to be paralyzed on the bed because of you. Any longer and you're going to kill me. Qin Fian was happy and kissed her face. Then why? Don't people say it's good if it's big and long? Whoever wants to do it with you, go find them. You're so bad at it. I've never experienced the feeling described in novels. If I have, it's only at the end. I don't want to endure such a long time for such a small feeling. I won't do it. Qin Fian was stunned. This was the second time Xia Qian had said that he was bad at it. He was very distressed. He felt that as long as it was a man, he would definitely be self-taught. How could there be a difference between good and bad? Anyway, every time he saw her come out of the shower and smelled the scent on her body, he wanted to roll in the sheets with her. Every time he couldn't wait and couldn't hold it in. No matter how much she resisted, he felt very comfortable. That kind of process was indescribably wonderful. Could it be that she didn't feel the same way as he did? Qin Fian was not as experienced as Zhuang Yichen when it came to such matters. It was a sad thing for a 25-year-old man to have just started this life. He realized that he lacked understanding of Xia Qian in that matter. A man who had tasted the sweetness of sex for the first time, other than excitedly playing with his wife the whole night after he got out of bed, he didn't have any skills to speak of. Therefore he began to realize that there was something wrong with the rhythm. He liked to discuss many things with Jiang Zhao, but this kind of thing he couldn't possibly discuss it with him, right? It would be embarrassing if word got out. He could ask his brother for advice on how to pick up a woman, but if he had to ask his brother for advice on how to sleep with her, he would be too useless. Qin Fian sighed and patted Xia Qian. Sleep early. I'll go outside. Xia Qian hid under the blankets and didn't dare to poke her head out. She only came out of the blankets when there was no sound in the room. Could she finally have a good night's sleep? He said he was going outside. He wouldn't come in again, right? Therefore she got out of bed, took a shower, and went to sleep. Qin Fian waited for Xia Qian to fall asleep before crawling back into bed. This time he was determined to win. He had enough confidence. Slowly, he didn't use too much strength. His movements were extremely gentle. He watched as Xia Qian closed her eyes and moved from time to time. He was delighted when he heard the sound of something breaking coming out of her nose. He knew that there must have been something wrong with the rhythm in the past. Qian Qian, yeah, I won't be a beast tonight. Xia Qian couldn't breathe. She opened her eyes and was shocked. Qin Fian. Be good. I'm already halfway in. Did you just realize? Xia Qian finally realized that he still had the nerve to say that he wasn't a beast. You beast. How dare you sneak up on me? You're too slippery today. Qin Fian was still smiling when he heard Xia Qian say, yeah. Qin Fian let out a cry and felt that he was satisfied. He finally knew that this rhythm was definitely correct. Don't call me beast. Call me brother. Yeah. Are you going to call me that or not? Qin Fian, who had mastered the technique, began to use his advantage to threaten Xia Qian. Looking at her, he finally understood a truth. There was no end to learning. There were 72 professions and each profession had its own master. That kind of thing was also a kind of learning, a never-ending kind of learning. Brother, you're my biological brother. Qin Fian's face darkened. Bullsh *T, I don't like it. Lover brother. Am I right? Yeah, Xiaoya kept waiting for Zhuang Yichen. It was 3 in the morning but there was still no call. Even though she had been pretending to be calm, she still panicked. Based on Zhuang Yichen's character, he must have had a woman outside. This person would definitely not bother to hide it from her. He had never promised to be loyal to her. After all, she had gotten her position as an underground prostitute. If he really went to find a woman, she didn't need to panic. At most she would feel terrible. She called Li Yong. Her voice was a little weak. Uncle Li, where's Yichen? Is he with you? Young mistress, please wait a moment. I'll pass the phone to young master. Xiaoya heard Li Yong turn the door lock and then call softly, young master. She heard Zhuang Yichen ask, what's wrong? Young mistress called. Oh. It turned out that he was fine. He had made her worry for the whole night. The string in her heart snapped. She fell to the ground as if she had been sucked dry. As soon as Zhuang Yichen picked up the phone, he heard the sound of something hitting the ground on the other end of the line. When Zhuang Yichen rushed back to 9th Mansion, he found Xiaoya on the ground. He hurriedly carried her up. Xiaoya hugged Zhuang Yichen's waist and said weakly, next time when you're outside, can you give me a call? I thought something happened to you. I suddenly relaxed just now and fell to the ground. I fainted for a while and fell asleep. Brother Zhao wanted to talk to me about something. We were on a video call and my phone ran out of battery, so I forgot about it. Zhuang Yichen was also a little regretful. However, Yunyi was pregnant and Jiang Zhao had to wait for her to fall asleep every day before he could look for her. There was very little time, so when they talked he forgot everything. It won't happen again. It's good that you're fine. I'm sleepy. Okay, let's go upstairs and sleep. Time passed like this. Zhuang Yichen went home every day. When it was time for the wedding, Xiaoya started to feel nervous. She had always dressed very sexily. When everyone thought that she would go all out, she wore a princess-style wedding dress with a luxurious handmade rice veil on her head. She had on bright bridal makeup, pink eyeshadow, and bright lipstick. She didn't look seductive at all. Instead, she looked very pure. Zhuang Yichen hugged her. The dress is so long and it's so fluffy. It's not convenient to find a place to sneak a kiss. Xiaoya glared at him. You're so naughty. You're beautiful, my little fairy. Zhuang Yichen hugged Xiaoya, and the frame of the wedding dress tightened around the woman's waist. He held her slender waist in his hand. I really want to kiss you properly, but you have makeup on your face. I'll let you kiss me tonight. Xiaoya twisted her waist. At this moment she looked a little shy. Zhuang Yichen's heart skipped a beat. You want to kiss me everywhere? Xiaoya's face turned even redder. Okay. He nibbled on her ear. What about mine? He pulled her hand and placed it on his crotch. Xiaoya snorted. You don't want to? Who said so? She hugged his neck. I love you. I'm willing. Zhuang Yichen smiled naughtily. Shouldn't you say that when I'm willing when we're vowing? Beauty novel Songshu 566. Chapter 763. You know what I'm talking about, yet you're still talking about it. Ah, this. What about you? Xiaoya knew that Zhuang Yichen treated her differently. People like him were too lazy to even smile at others. Those love-struck women would go crazy just to wait for him to smile. She was already immune to it. Hence, she could not blindly imagine anything. She thought that he was that kind of person, but he was actually that kind of person. Zhuang Yichen was nothing more than a tall, rich, and handsome man. Look at how those women were mesmerized by him. She felt disdain in her heart, but on second thought, wasn't this D***Emin man still mesmerized by her? Zhuang Yichen's phone rang. He kissed her ear and said, I'm going out to take a call, madam. Okay. The moment Zhuang Yichen went out, the bridesmaids rushed in again. The moment that guy came, he chased everyone away. However, she liked his vigor. The wind was still cold. The wind on the tall building was blowing in all directions, messing up everyone's hair. Zhuang Yichen was wearing a black suit made by Xiaoya. He looked domineering. The violet flower on his chest made him look even more stunning. Kang Yiyun was wearing a mid-length coat with a standing collar. She looked much more refined. Zhuang Yichen was holding the photo that Kang Yiyun handed to him. He was engrossed in it, but his ears were not idle. He listened to Kang Yun's narration without missing a word. Why do you think she's with you? Isn't it because your eyes look like mine? Kang Yun said faintly. She felt that after losing me she wanted to find someone who looks like me. Zhuang Yichen was holding the photo of Xiaoya and Kang Yun. His hand tightened. This was something that he had never noticed before. He looked at Kang Yun's eyes. If he covered the part below the nose, this pair of eyes really looked like his. It was just that Kang Yun was fairer than him. Zhuang Yichen lowered his head and continued to look at the photo. He looked at the woman in the photo. To be exact, it was a girl. She was wearing a school uniform. Her long hair was neat, and her eyes were curved with a smile. Other than happiness, there was nothing else in her eyes. The first time he saw her, she had short hair and a short skirt. She sat on his lap, invited him to drink, and seduced him. He remembered that she kept staring into his eyes. It was as if she was looking into his heart. He could not help but tighten his grip on the photo. He was a substitute. Qiu Xiaoye, she dared to treat him as a substitute. Kang Yun leaned against the cement wall on the roof and looked at the hustle and bustle of the city. He was not reconciled. Ever since he came back he could not get close to Xiaoya. Zhuang Yichen always found a way to stop him. Many times he was clearly close to her, but he was suddenly interrupted by something. Sometimes, even if Xiaoya looked like a person, he would be suddenly chased away by Zhuang Yichen's people when he finally found her whereabouts. He even received threats and threats. He was the one who proposed to Xiaoya first. Xiaoya and I have known each other for so many years. Her grades were not good and I was the one who made up for her. Her grades were surprisingly high for all the classes that I made up for her. Although my family was against it, we were always together. Back then, my mother lied to me. She colluded with the doctor to give me a notice of critical illness. She said that I had blood cancer and could only live for 3 years at most. I loved her. I could not accept the fact that I could only live for 3 years. If I died one day, what would she do? Kang Yun's voice choked and he let out a long breath. So I dumped her in front of everyone in Ocean University. I knew that she tried to commit suicide. I was the one who asked me to follow her, so she did not succeed. She was going to cut her wrist, but because someone stopped her, she cut the area between her thumb and index finger. The scar on her hand was because of me. Later she was hospitalized. After she was discharged, she went abroad for a vacation. My mother asked someone to get rid of me. You two were entangled at that time, right? At that time, I had just broken up with her. She only thought of you as me. Even if you only had one eye like me, it could still comfort her heart. Do you know why she wanted to be famous? Kang Yun took another breath. His eyes were full of pain. Because at that time she only knew that I went abroad, but she did not know where I went. She went abroad to look for me. She could not find me, so she wanted to be famous. She wanted me to see her and see where she was so that I could find her. She wanted to stand at a high position so that I could find her. These were the words she wrote to me in an email. Zhuang Yichen, everything she did was because of me. Listening to Kang Yun's calm narration, Zhuang Yichen swore to God that if it was not for the fact that he did not want Kang Yun to see anything, he would definitely throw this man out of the building. No one knew how angry he was at that moment. He had touched the scar on Xiaoya's hand countless times at night. He always wondered what caused such an injury. She looked so good. It turned out that she had killed herself for another man, and he, as a substitute, had accompanied her for 4 years. His mind flashed back to the first time they met. Most of the British bars were foreigners with curly hair. He had gathered there with a few young friends because he was bored. He still felt that Asians were much more pleasing to the eye. He did not like foreign women's skin. Although their facial features were three-dimensional, it felt prickly to touch. That kind of porcelain and jade-like skin was what he loved. She came into his line of sight because there were so many Asians abroad. In the end, she sat in his arms without looking sideways. She held 2 glasses of wine in her hands. She picked up one of the glasses and touched his chin, saying that she wanted to treat him to a drink. His friends saw that he was not in the mood at night and began to kick up a fuss. They said that he did not even dare to drink a woman's wine. He took her glass, put his arm around her waist and said that he was not used to spending a woman's money. The wine, of course, was his treat. He remembered that she looked into his eyes as if she wanted to look into his heart. Then she began to kiss him. Because she saw that he was so focused that it did not seem like he was playing a game. His friends began to kick up a fuss again, saying that he did not even dare to eat what he sent to his door. He carried her and left that place. When they woke up the next morning, she hugged his waist. If you are a capable man, let me be your lover, okay? He was stunned. If he did not see the red roses on the bed and felt that layer of membrane last night, He would have thought that this woman was a natural social butterfly. "What's your name?" he asked. "Qiu Xiaoya. How much do you want?" "I don't want money. I want to be a famous designer. Can you help me become famous?" He was stunned for a moment. She was a special person. "I have misophobia. I don't like to change female partners. Your body can't betray me. For 4 years you can't have other men. You can't have excessive demands. I will make you famous. I will give you the house. After 4 years the ownership will be transferred. If you want to stop early, my support for you will also stop." "Okay." At that time she agreed readily. They had once toasted because both of them did not hide anything. It was actually very easy to find such a woman. She had always been honest. But now this Kang Yun told him that this was the reason. Although she did not say that she had feelings for anyone, he still could not accept that he was Kang Yun's substitute. Moreover, she became famous because of Kang Yun. This damn reason. He should have confronted her and not just listened to Kang Yun's one-sided words. His heart began to turn upside down, and his mind was scattered. Kang Yun noticed his absent-mindedness. "After I went abroad for 4 years, I found out that my mother lied to me. After I found out the truth, I went back immediately. Zhuang Yichen, tell me, if I tell Xiaoya about this, will she still marry you?" Zhuang Yichen's heart skipped a beat. He looked up with a faint gaze and a faint smile. However, his gaze turned cold, and there was a murderous glint in his eyes. "Kang Yun, you can't steal a woman from anyone, but you want to steal from me?" When he said this, he realized that he had always underestimated Kang Yun. He thought that he was only her past boyfriend. Her boyfriend, he treated Kang Yun like a gangster. But now he had the urge to destroy Kang Yun's body and destroy all evidence. "You're scared, right? You must know that Xiaoya has always had me in her heart, right?" "Kang Yun." Zhuang Yichen smiled. "I'm not worried. I'm worried that you won't attend the wedding later." Kang Yun saw Zhuang Yichen's faint smile and her heart trembled. "Am I the one who doesn't want to attend? You're the one who won't let me in. Why should I let you in? Then why did you say that you're worried that I won't attend?" "I'm a conflicted person." Zhuang Yichen laughed. "I don't want you to ruin my mood, but I also want you to see how happy she looks when she's in my arms. What should I do?" Zhuang Yichen tore the photo in his hand and waved it. The pieces flew with the wind and fell into the city. Kang Yun seemed to have expected this. "I have the original." Zhuang Yichen shook his head and raised his eyebrows. He smiled and said, "I should show you our wedding photos. They're better than yours. You'll never know what kind of woman Xiaoya is after she matures, but I know." Xiaoya didn't know what a grand wedding was. She only knew that when Yi Er got married, it was such a sensational wedding in Jiang district that she was envious of. Now that it was her turn to get married, she got it too. Such a luxurious fleet of cars was the envy of others. There was immediately news on Weibo that people nowadays like to flaunt their wealth. She thought to herself, "It's not that I want to flaunt my wealth, but I'm rich to begin with." She was so proud of herself. She held onto Zhuang Yichen's arm. She saw the man turn his head to look at her. He looked so charming when he smiled. They walked all the way to the priest's position from outside the church. She knew that the ring on her ring finger was worth millions. When she said, "I do," in a choked voice, she heard him say in her ear, "Your tears of happiness are worth more than this diamond. It's a pity to let it flow out." Xiaoya knew that Zhuang Yichen treated her differently. People like him didn't say too many sweet words. Today he seemed to be putting in a lot of effort to make her happy. Awesome novel Hongcha 866. Chapter 764. She knew that there were 6 pairs of groomsmen and bridesmaids. Just the clothes they were wearing were worth at least 100,000 yuan each. She knew that the banquet was served with crystal cups flown from Italy. Thousands of crystal cups clinked in the hands of the guests. She knew that the walls and ceiling of the nearly 2,000 square meters banquet hall were decorated with red American roses and scattered baby stars. Not only were the flowers overflowing, but it was also like a girl walking into a dream. She remembered one time when Yi Er called her to complain that Jiang Zhao never sent her flowers. She even comforted Yi Er, "Only women like flowers. Men don't like flowers that much. Although it's a pity that you didn't get to spend them, isn't it enough that Jiang Zhao treats you well?" At that time she was in his arms. He must have heard it. That was why he gave her so many flowers, so many that there was not a single gap. She looked up at the ceiling. In the wall of fiery red roses, there were 2 figures formed by pink roses. They were so lifelike that they looked like a man and woman in love. Both of them had their hands behind their backs. They leaned forward and kissed each other. She could tell that the woman had short hair below her ears. He turned his head. I think you are as enchanting as a red rose. But others say that pink roses represent love. We don't seem to have been in love before. If we were to be in a relationship, would we be like that? His gaze fell on the couple. He asked her, do you like it? Xiaoya almost wanted to throw a punch at him. She wanted to roar and ask him if he still wanted her to get married. It was such a good day, why did he have to make her want to cry? All she saw were the nobles, and all she heard was the wedding march played by the most famous symphony orchestra. Other people's grand weddings were magnificent, but she knew that every part of her grand wedding was a dream that Zhuang Yichen returned to her, showing off her happiness in front of everyone. The dream at night was more realistic. Her soft skin was pressed against his firm chest, and the breath she exhaled was lingering and strong. Once upon a time she had never thought that he was a good man. But today she thought that he was the best man in the world. The tip of his tongue between her legs teased her. Xiaoya clutched the bedsheets tightly. Yichen? Yichen? His voice was the only sound that came out of his nose. She reached out and grabbed his hair between her legs. Only when the sheets were wet did he retract his tongue. He propped himself up and kissed her on the lips. He asked her in a low voice, does it feel good? He smiled wickedly and knelt down. Without waiting for her consent, he grabbed her head and placed his already swollen head into her mouth. She closed her eyes and tried her best not to let her teeth touch him. Hearing the deep moan coming from his throat, she tried even harder to please him. Zhuang Yichen found Kang Yun's mother and asked her to take care of her son. It was better for her not to think about other people's wives. She did not want to make everyone look bad in the end. As Zhuang Yichen had expected, Kang Yun's mother strongly opposed it because she didn't like Xiaoya's family background. How could she agree now? This way he didn't have to do anything. He wasn't sure what he would do if Kang Yun dared to find Xiaoya and tell her about what happened back then. But he was sure that if Xiaoya wanted to break up because of this, he would kill Kang Yun. But this kind of thing was like a curse. He had been controlling himself. Who didn't have a past? Why did he have to ask Xiaoya to do something? But at night he couldn't help but sit up. He started drinking. Otherwise he wouldn't be able to sleep. Whenever he slept beside her, he felt that he was a substitute. He couldn't think too deeply about this problem. The more he thought about it, the more he drank. After drinking he was half sober and half drunk. Xiaoya snatched his wine glass and asked him if he had met with any difficulties recently. Without any explanation he pressed her against the wall and used the most realistic way to possess her. He panted. Little demon Chiu, do you think my eyes are good looking? Xiaoya looked at his slender eyes. She reached out and touched them. His almond-shaped eyes were so charming, especially when they were on his face. When he narrowed them slightly, he looked gloomy and domineering. Yes, I think these are the best-looking eyes in the world. Which part of my face do you think is the best-looking? Your eyes are the best-looking. Your nose is also good-looking. Your mouth is also good-looking. Even the stubble on your chin when you wake up in the morning is good-looking. She kissed him. But he hated hearing that sentence the most. Your eyes are the best-looking. He let out a long breath and rubbed her chest. Give me a son. I have so many assets. You have to give me a son. What if you give birth to a daughter? Abort it? Don't you dare. I want a daughter too, but I must have a son. If it's a daughter, I'll stop giving birth to a son. She caressed his face with some heartache. She felt that he seemed to be carrying a lot on his shoulders recently. He was very tired, so she lowered her voice. Yichen, you just stopped taking the medicine not long ago. He shook his head and pulled out of her body. I drank alcohol today. I can't have it. I'll stop drinking tomorrow. I'll quit smoking. Then he went upstairs, found the condom and called her upstairs. The moment she entered the door, he buried himself in her body. Thrusting, the rainy night, the lightning and the deafening thunder. Zhuang Yichen searched through the 9th mansion and returned to the villa in the suburbs. He didn't even care that it was past 10 o'clock. He still called Yi'er. Sister-in-law, did Xiaoya go to your place? Zhuang Yichen? What time is it now? Yi'er was sleeping like a log. Jiang Zhao picked up the phone. He was very angry. Usually he wouldn't disturb Yi'er's sleep no matter what, but Zhuang Yichen didn't call him and called Yi'er. Didn't he see what time it was now? Brother Zhao, Xiaoya is missing. I'm very busy today. You know, we've been doing that thing recently. I didn't have time to call her. I only left the company at 8:30. I called her, but her phone was turned off. I went to her shop, but there was no one there. I've searched a few houses but there's no one there. The staff in the shop said that she went out this afternoon. I couldn't find her, so I called her to ask if she had seen her. Zhuang Yichen finished in one breath, afraid that he would miss something. You're saying that Xiaoya is missing? Yes, she's missing. I just tried calling my in-laws and they said that they would come to visit us in 2 days. That means that Xiaoya didn't come home at all. Brother Zhao, I didn't quarrel with her. She's not throwing a tantrum at me. That's for sure. Zhuang Yichen didn't like to tell others about his personal feelings. He hid them very well, including his private feelings. But at this time he couldn't care less. The thunder in the sky started to rumble again. Lightning lit up the sky like a demonic magic. Jiang Zhao came out of Yi Er's room. He felt that this was no small matter. They're just newlyweds. How can there be so many arguments? Did you call Xia Qian? Zhuang Yichen was stunned for a moment. He was about to hang up and call Xia Qian. Don't call her. Jiang Zhao interrupted him. I'll give Fian a call lest you tell Xia Qian everything. If she's really missing, it's better not to let Xia Qian know for the time being, lest she spreads it everywhere. But Fian listens to me. Then I'll leave it to you. Okay, I'll call you in 2 minutes. Zhuang Yichen took a deep breath. Li Yong was standing beside him. Young master, how is it? No one knows. Young master, don't worry. Young mistress might have gone to have fun. You've been married for so long and you're so busy. If she's bored, it's possible that she went to a bar or something, Li Yong comforted. Zhuang Yichen waved his hand. He took off his tie and threw it on the sofa. He let out a long breath. Seeing that his phone hadn't rang yet, he said impatiently, Uncle Li, if it was in the past she might have gone, but Xiaoya isn't Zhuang Yichen. She's a smart woman. Everyone in High City knows that she's my wife. How could she go to a bar like that? Even if she wanted to go, she would have asked me, Xia Qian, Qin Fian. She wouldn't go alone. Jiang Zhao's phone rang 2 minutes later. Yichen, I think it's better to call the police. Fian said that Xiaoya didn't look for Xia Qian. This is a little strange. Call the police? Zhuang Yichen's heart skipped a beat. Calling the police was a very serious matter, especially for Zhuang Yichen. For people like him, it was best not to deal with the police. Moreover, he felt that the police were not as reliable as his subordinates. In addition, if there was really a problem, the police would be a big deal and alert the enemy. Zhuang Yichen told Jiang Zhao not to be anxious. He hung up the phone. He called Scarface and the bearded man and asked them to immediately release their fishing lines to fish for clues. Just as he hung up the phone, a familiar number called. He picked it up. Second brother. The man's voice on the other end was arrogant and hypocritical. Zhuang Yichen suddenly realized that something was wrong and started to be hypocritical. Big brother. Haha, you're not asleep yet. No. You can't sleep because you're waiting for sister-in-law, right? Zhuang Yifeng knew that what he said would be very infuriating, but the more infuriating he was, the more he wanted to say it. Zhuang Yichen was indeed so angry that he clenched his fists. Sure enough, it seemed that he really couldn't call the police today. Li Yong moved to his side and gave him a fierce look. Zhuang Yichen stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window with one hand on his waist. He shook his head at Li Yong and glanced out the window. Outside, there was a thunderstorm and Zhuang Yichen could also hear it on the other end. He wasn't sure where Zhuang Yifeng was. He had been worried. Big brother, are you keeping Xiaoya for supper? Haha. Zhuang Yifeng laughed strangely. Oh my god, my second brother, you're already at this juncture. Why are you still pretending to be deep in front of your big brother? Supper? Do you think I'm such a petty person? My subordinates have been researching something recently. I think it's very interesting and want sister-in-law to play with it. Welfare Hongcha 866. Chapter 765. Don't do anything rash. Zhuang Yichen closed his eyes and tried to calm himself down. However, his voice was still very loud and it scared Li Yong, who was standing at the side. Haha, second brother, don't get agitated. Even big brother speaks so softly. You're being disrespectful to big brother. How can you not differentiate between the young and the old? Zhuang Yifeng spoke like a venomous snake. He straightened his body and bent his head slightly backward. He stuck out his tongue as if he was going to pounce on Zhuang Yichen at any moment. However, he kept sticking out his tongue and didn't pounce on Zhuang Yichen. What do you want? Zhuang Yichen was confused and asked for the reason first. My subordinates are researching a lightning rod. I think it's very interesting. What do you think will happen if this lightning rod is tied to a person's head and lightning strikes? Zhuang Yichen raised his hand and pressed it against his forehead. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't listen to Zhuang Yifeng anymore. What do you want? Zhuang Yichen knew he had lost when he raised this condition. I want you to come here alone. I'm at the Shirley Pavilion. You know, this is the wilderness. I like to deal with ghosts. If you bring too many people here and scare away my ghosts, I'll get angry. The Shirley Pavilion was a place where many people from Haicheng liked to hide from the cold in summer. There were relatively fewer people in winter. It wasn't a scenic spot. It was just a long pavilion that was built for the convenience of the city. On a winter night like this, there were even fewer people. However, there was a chair in the seemingly dark pavilion. A person was sitting on the chair with his legs crossed. When the lightning struck, his expression was unusually gloomy and scary. There were more than 10 strong men standing beside him. They looked fierce. Get some light so that second brother won't be able to find this place. Zhuang Yifeng smiled. A few seconds later, a few searchlights lit up in the pavilion. This way they wouldn't have to wait for the lightning to strike. They could see 10 meters away. There were 2 shelves outside the pavilion. They were 10 meters apart. Zhuang Yifeng and the 2 shelves formed an equilateral triangle. The 2 shelves outside the pavilion weren't empty. There were 2 people hanging in the air. They were 2 women. One of them was Xiaoya. The other was Zhuang Yifeng's wife. Xen Man. Zhuang Yifeng sighed and looked at Xen Man coldly. This woman stole his secrets and gave them to Zhuang Yichen. She even dared to ruin her relationship with Zhuang Yichen. Not long ago, his men had taken photos of her and Zhuang Yichen behaving intimately. Zhuang Yifeng, Zhuang Yifeng, Zhuang Yifeng's, Zhuang Yifeng, Zhuang Yifeng's. But damn it, he had indulged this woman more and more, which led to the current situation. Xan Man had revealed the real estate company's secrets to Zhuang Yichen that the 3rd episode of The Shoreline was in trouble. Xiaoya no longer had the strength to shout. She only felt that her entire body was about to freeze. It was too cold. It wasn't even March yet and it was very cold. However, it was still raining. Furthermore, it was nighttime. The cold air followed the rainwater and stuck to her body, entering her skin. Now she felt that the cold air had already entered her lungs. Xiaoya was very tired and cold, but she didn't even have the energy to shiver. There was nothing left. In the rainy night, 2 strong beams of light pierced through the layers of rain and shot towards the pavilion. The man beside Zhuang Yifeng shouted, "Take your weapons." The sound of bullets being loaded could be heard. Zhuang Yifeng waved his hand and said lightly, "Don't be like this. You're scaring my second brother. If another person comes out of his car, shoot him in the leg." Yes. 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 Zhuang Yifeng stood up and saw that Zhuang Yichen was still looking at the Bugatti in the city. He mocked, "Look at this second brother of mine. He doesn't even know how to drive an off-road vehicle with a higher chassis in the wilderness. If we bring him up a slope, he'll be useless here." The car stopped outside the pavilion. Zhuang Yichen opened the door and got out of the car. He opened the seat and propped it on top of his head. The black umbrella was darker than the night sky. The huge black umbrella seemed to be propping up a pavilion above his head. Raindrops fell from the corners of the roof outside the pavilion. Zhuang Yifeng waved his hand. "Go over and search him." The gun was pointed at Zhuang Yichen's back. Zhuang Yichen held the umbrella and raised his hand, allowing these people to search him. Zhuang Yichen's men asked Zhuang Yichen to open the car door and the trunk. After making sure that he didn't bring anyone with him, they nodded at Zhuang Yifeng. Zhuang Yifeng invited Zhuang Yichen into the pavilion. He patted his shoulder and said pretentiously, "Second brother, how many years has it been since we've had a good chat? This isn't good. Although we have different mothers, we have the same father, right? Blood is thicker than water. How can we not interact with each other? Big brother, you're right. As your younger brother, I'm right. I don't know any better." Zhuang Yichen entered the pavilion and stood where Zhuang Yifeng was sitting just now. There were more searchlights and they shone on the rack outside. Zhuang Yichen looked in the direction of the searchlights. He took 2 steps forward and stood in the corridor of the pavilion. He was shocked. Little man. If it was the police, then it was fine. He suddenly turned his head. His slender eyes were filled with disbelief and anger. "Why is little man here?" "Haha." Zhuang Yichen laughed. "What do you think of this gift? Are you surprised?" Zhuang Yichen exhaled heavily. He gritted his teeth and said, "Zhuang Yifeng, you're too much. Little man is your wife. How dare you tie her up there?" "I am my younger brother, you shouldn't talk like that. Seems like your wife is there too. This is between me and Xiaoya. Let little man go," Zhuang Yichen said sternly. Zhuang Yifeng raised his eyebrows and shrugged. "You call me big brother just now. You don't even need to use honorifics now. He sighed. Sigh, it's still not thundering today. I'm so anxious. Just now, there was continuous thunder, but when you came, there was no thunder. I originally wanted to wait for you to come and put on the lightning rods for them so that you can watch a good show. Look, my second brother, what kind of luck do you have? You can't even watch a good show. Zhuang Yichen's gaze fell on Xan Man. Xan Man was hung on the rack. Her hands were tied up like Xiao Ya's. In fact, not to mention the cold, her arms couldn't stand being hung like that for a long time. Hence, Xan Man and Xiao Ya both fainted. However, Zhuang Yichen's voice was too loud. There hadn't been thunder for a long time, so his voice sounded abrupt. However, Xan Man was very familiar with Zhuang Yichen's voice. She slowly opened her eyes. When she saw Zhuang Yichen's figure, she still couldn't believe it. She tried to call out, Yichen? Then she shouted loudly, Yichen. Zhuang Yichen clenched his fists. Big brother, let little man go first. How can I? I've never been soft-hearted to people who betray me. Zhuang Yichen looked at his wife who was desperately calling for Zhuang Yichen's life in the rain. He gritted his teeth angrily. I was the one who instigated little man to get the information. None of this has anything to do with her. Let her go and come at me. Although Zhuang Yichen didn't have an advantage in front of more than 10 people, he was born with a stronger appearance than Zhuang Yifeng. At this time, his words were sonorous and forceful, which imperceptibly made his domineering aura leak out. Zhuang Yifeng was stunned for a moment. Then he suddenly laughed. Ayo. What right do you have to ask me to come at you? You're now a doll in my hands. I can do whatever I want. What right do you have to negotiate with me? Zhuang Yichen, you actually dared to plot against me behind my back. Originally, we didn't need to put our guns on the table. Everyone was doing their own business. However, your appetite is too big. A few years ago you killed my mother. Last year you sent my father to prison. Now you actually want to send me to prison. Why don't you just kill my father? You want to torture him, right? You want to use the same trick to deal with me? Zhuang Yichen, I'm telling you, I'm going to kill you today. Zhuang Yichen looked around Zhuang Yichen. His eyes turned cold as he said coldly, now if you want me to die, it's all up to you. But first you have to let little man go. Xiao Ya felt that the rain falling on her body was getting smaller and smaller. Gradually it lost its strength. Therefore, in her muddled state, she could clearly hear Zhuang Yichen's voice. It was like a dose of refreshing medicine. Her arms were dangling until she felt like they weren't hers anymore. She wanted to use more strength to pull them up, but she didn't have the strength. Her joints felt like they were about to be torn apart. When she was awake, all kinds of discomfort became more obvious. The sound of the rain was getting smaller and smaller. Although the visibility was still not high, Xiao Ya opened her eyes and saw her husband standing in the pavilion. She was originally happy, but when she saw the other people in the pavilion, her joy was shattered. What replaced it was uneasiness and fear. She shouted at him, Zhuang Yichen, what are you doing here? Go away, they have guns. Hearing this, Zhuang Yichen was in high spirits. Husband and wife, how touching. Zhuang Yichen didn't seem to hear Zhuang Yichen's mockery. He tilted his head and looked at Xiao Ya. His eyes were deep and his thick eyebrows were tightly knitted. At night, Xiao Ya couldn't see the light in his eyes. She only knew that he looked very anxious. Even his tone was anxious. Little demon, don't worry. I'm here. Xiao Ya was so touched that her eyes were burning, but she was still very worried. Zhuang Yichen, are you stupid? He tricked you here. He's desperate. Zhuang Yichen laughed. Sister-in-law is so smart. As he spoke, he reached out to pat Zhuang Yichen's shoulder. Zhuang Yichen's back muscles were as tense as iron. Xiao Ya and I will stay here. You let Xiao Man go. This has nothing to do with Xiao Man, but his words were heard clearly by Xiao Ya as the rain gradually stopped. She subconsciously turned her head and clearly saw that Xan Man was also like her, with her hands tied up and hung up. Xan Man was also being used to threaten Zhuang Yichen? Xiao Ya suddenly felt an extremely uncomfortable feeling in her heart. She finally understood why so many people were crazy about love. It was because nothing could be mixed with it. She didn't know how long she had been in love with Zhuang Yichen. She only knew that she had slowly gotten used to rejecting other men for her employer. Beauty novel Song Shu 566. Chapter 766. She could have broken up with him and found a man who was willing to marry her, but she didn't. She wrote down Zhuang Yichen's name on the paper from the age of 21 to 25. There wasn't a single gap and she couldn't write another story. She already had a career and didn't need to rely on him anymore, but she still didn't break up with him. Instead, she waited until Kang Iyun reappeared. She started to understand how to compare and scheme. She used to beg for death because of love. She felt that it was impossible for her to love again in this lifetime. She found a man and asked for material things from him. She didn't need love, not even care. But she still did what she did in the past. She plunged into Zhuang Yichen's paper. But now she understood how to compare. Compared to her an ex-en man, who was more important in his heart. She wasn't afraid that he wouldn't come. Instead, she was afraid that he would be in more danger if he came. But now he was here. But he chose to let Zhuang Yichen release ex-en man. Xiaoya felt her entire body go numb. She was so cold that she was numb. Her hands were tied by the rope and her blood flow wasn't smooth. Her entire body was numb. Only the pain in her heart was the clearest. She had always disdained ex-en man's existence. She felt that she was cleaner than ex-en man. Although her first love didn't belong to Zhuang Yichen, she gave her first time to Zhuang Yichen. And her body only belonged to Zhuang Yichen. When Zhuang Yichen used force on her body, she felt that this man liked her. What was ex-en man? She was just a fleeting cloud. But if the man you love at the moment of life and death, regardless of whether he can survive or not, chooses to give up on you and reach out to another person he once loved, how would you feel? Xiaoya couldn't speak. She would rather stay unconscious. But her heart hurt more and more. The pain made her nerves more sensitive and clearer. Okay, I can let ex-en man go. But give me Xingqian International. I've prepared the contract. Sign it. Xiaoya heard Zhuang Yichen say without thinking, okay. Give it to me, I'll sign it. Xiaoya bit her lips. She couldn't cry out loud. Even if he thought for a moment she wouldn't be so sad. Because of that ex-en man he had come to this point. She was just someone else's wife, it had nothing to do with him. Zhuang Yifeng shook his head and could not help but feel extremely regretful. I forgot to ask you to bring the company's official seal. It seems that today's losses are too great. He took a gun from his subordinate and loaded it. He raised his hand and looked at the two shelves, then handed a knife to Zhuang Yichen. The big man next to him immediately aimed his gun at Zhuang Yichen's head. Zhuang Yichen said lightly, the ropes on their hands are not very tight. You can use this knife to cut the ropes on their hands. 10 seconds. Zhuang Yifeng paused and smiled sinisterly. If I can't save them, the bullets in my hand will run even faster. I hope that you can take both of them down in 10 seconds. That way I won't owe you a life. Xiaoya thought that she was not afraid of death. After all, she had already died once. She had earned every day since she came back from the grasslands. However, Zhuang Yichen was the man she loved. Her lips trembled. Yichen, I still want to give birth to a son for you. She remembered that he had said that she would give birth until she had a son because he had a lot of family businesses. Just as Xiaoya finished speaking, ex-en man's voice, which was 10 meters away, was much louder than hers. She screamed when she saw the hope of survival. Yichen, you can't leave me alone. You said that you would take care of me for the rest of my life. Xiaoya's heart sank. For the rest of her life. Zhuang Yichen had never promised to take care of her for the rest of her life. He didn't say anything when they got married. From the beginning to the end, he only said that he would marry her. Giving her a wedding, giving her a company, giving her shares for the rest of her life. These words were really nice to hear. Begin. Just as Zhuang Yifeng shouted. The corners of Xiaoya's lips slowly curled up. She watched as the man she loved held a gleaming knife in his hand. He lifted his long legs and jumped onto the pavilion's veranda. He took a big step forward and leaped several meters. His movements were as agile as a cheetah that was hunting in the wind. He rushed out as fast as lightning, but ran in another direction without any hesitation. She saw him jump up and cut the rope that bound ex-en man. His movements were clean and beautiful. She smiled. He was so skillful, just like a professional killer. Seeing ex-en man fall to the ground, she closed her eyes in despair. It turned out that it didn't matter whether they got married or not. What mattered was whether that person had you in his heart. Xiaoya knew that she was starting to be greedy again. She was a woman who didn't know how to be content. She had money and wanted someone. She wanted a marriage. She wanted a marriage and wanted only her in his heart. The last time in the swamp, she thought that she was going to die. Her wish was to tell him that she loved him. Now that she knew that she was going to die, her wish was to ask him if he had ever loved her. You're so fast. Ah. But there are still 5 seconds left. Zhuang Yifeng's wild voice sounded. Xiaoya didn't want to open her eyes, but just as she was counting in her heart, a police siren suddenly sounded. It was a very close distance. The police siren had attracted the attention of the people in the pavilion. Something like a grenade was thrown towards the pavilion. Everyone was shocked. "There's a police officer. Retreat to a safe distance." But it was just a smokescreen. The silver Bugatti's accelerator was pushed to the limit. It wasn't far from the pavilion, and now it was rushing towards Xiaoya's pavilion. Gunshots were heard. The pavilion suddenly fell, and Xiaoya fell to the ground with it. Her body was covered in mud. The car's steering wheel and accelerator were in perfect sync, blocking the direction of the gun in the pavilion. Zhuang Yifeng cursed. "How the F***ck did you guys search?" The police siren sounded happily. Zhuang Yifeng's men wanted to fight because their car was parked in the direction of the police siren. They couldn't run away. While they hesitated, another smoke grenade was thrown, completely blocking the view of the people outside the pavilion. But the police siren was still there. Zhuang Yifeng realized that he had been fooled. They didn't shoot. Chase. "We must kill Zhuang Yichen here." When they chased out, the Bugatti was nowhere to be seen. After searching around, they realized that the police siren was just a waterproof loudspeaker in the grass. It should have been thrown by Zhuang Yichen's men. "Damn it. Didn't we check just now? Why is there someone in his car? How dare you trick me?" Zhuang Yifeng was so angry that he roared. He reached out and slapped the man beside him. His men naturally didn't dare to say anything and lowered their heads. "We did check just now. There was nothing in the car. There were a few small boxes in the trunk. We opened them all. There were no weapons or people. We even opened a pair of shoe boxes." Zhuang Yichen spat fiercely. "You can't possibly hide her under the chassis of the car, right?" As soon as he said that, he was shocked. "Damn it. He must have hidden someone under the car. I was wondering why he didn't drive an off-road vehicle with a high chassis. Was he afraid that I would find out? The Bugatti is spacious. You guys put all your energy into the car." The person driving Zhuang Yichen's car was very small, but his facial features were like an adult's. His head was just above the steering wheel. He stepped on the accelerator and stretched his body. He looked like he was using a lot of strength to pull his body. He looked forward, but his movements were practiced and his expression was relaxed. It was a skinny dwarf. The dwarf acted as if nothing had happened and said arrogantly, "Boss, remember me if you have a job like this next time." The car was spacious. Zhuang Yichen placed Xan Man, who was shot in the arm and back, on the back seat. His eyes were cold as he said coldly to the dwarf driving, "There won't be a next time." Xiaoya sat in the corner of the car door. She looked at Zhuang Yichen, who was also covered in mud like her, turning over the tourniquet in the car. Her face was full of tears. Zhuang Yichen looked up and saw little Ye's appearance. A light flashed across his eyes. He looked at the dwarf in the front row, then turned back and reached out to touch little Ye's face. Her face was covered in tears and her body was still wet. He propped himself up and leaned over, kissing her face. "Little demon, sleep for a while. We'll be there soon." Xiaoya said faintly, "It's too cold. I can't sleep." Zhuang Yichen did not have Xiaoya's clothes in the car. They were all soaked and could only urge the dwarf to drive faster. Zhuang Yichen invited a doctor to the villa in the suburbs. Xan Man's job of removing the bullet was also carried out in the villa. Xiaoya could not get close to Zhuang Yichen at all. He took a shower and changed his clothes. He was downstairs with a serious expression. The doctor examined Xiaoya. Xiaoya shook her head. "I'm not injured. I just need a hot bath." The maid quickly went to prepare hot water for Xiaoya. She looked worried. Xiaoya did not look for Zhuang Yichen. She went back to her room and lay in the bathtub, motionless. Zhuang Yichen returned to the study. Li Yong followed him in. Zhuang Yichen was holding an electronic sensor in his hand. Li Yong took it and scanned every corner of the study. Then he said, "I'm the only one who can enter the study. There shouldn't be any bugs installed." Okay. Zhuang Yichen collapsed on the sofa. He had been nervous the whole night. Now that he relaxed, his hands on the sofa began to tremble. Li Yong's heart ached. He quickly poured a cup of hot tea for him and handed it to him. The lid on the teacup was still closed and it made a clattering sound. "Young master, you usually don't get into such a fight with Zhuang Yichen. Why is it that this time, a cornered dog will do something desperate?" Zhuang Yichen lifted the lid of the teacup. He felt as if his mouth, throat, stomach and all his senses had turned cold. Thus, when he took a sip of the freshly brewed tea, he did not feel that it was too hot at all. He placed the teacup on the coffee table in front of him. His gaze only fell on the teacup. "Uncle Li, get more people to guard the villa for the next few days. Li Yong nodded. Young master, will Miss Xn be sitting here? Or will we have another place to stay? Zhuang Yichen's eyes darkened. Arrange for it to be here. Especially her. Get more people to watch over her. Awesome novel Hongcha 866. Chapter 767. Li Yong asked again, what about young madam? Zhuang Yichen rubbed his chin and thought for a long time. Tomorrow morning, Jiang Zhao called. How's it going? I got her back, but Xan Man is also there. She was shot. Brother Zhao, you can't get involved in this matter anymore. Otherwise you'll be implicated. It's not appropriate to call the police. I asked the dwarf Golden Thimble for help. If we call the police, we'll be exposed. What about Zhuang Yifeng? Ever since the incident in the 3rd episode, Zhuang Yifeng has been appearing and disappearing unpredictably. He's probably desperate now. We can't fight with him openly. Go to bed early. I won't contact you for the time being. Jiang Zhao was silent for a while. Okay, be careful. After Zhuang Yichen hung up the phone, he stood up and looked at the closed door. He put his hand on his head and rubbed it. He gritted his teeth and cursed under his breath. Damn it. Xian Man was originally on the 1st floor. Zhuang Yichen walked around the room a few times and went downstairs. He said to the servant, after Xian Man's surgery is done, ask the doctor if she can be moved upstairs. The room upstairs is more comfortable. It's also much warmer. Only after the servants agreed with him did he turn around and go upstairs. Young master? Li Yong called out carefully and followed him. Will young madam think too much? Zhuang Yichen walked quickly into the study. Li Yong closed the door behind him. Zhuang Yichen opened the laptop on the desk. Uncle Li, after Xan Man is sent up, send her to my bedroom. Tonight you'll have to work hard. No one is allowed to go upstairs. If I need to call the doctor, I'll have to trouble you. I don't trust anyone downstairs. It's not impossible to send her to your bedroom, but young madam. Uncle Li, there's a mole in this house. Zhuang Yichen sat in front of the desk. Li Yong wasn't calm either. Young master, what should we do next? Zhuang Yichen shook his head. He went online, opened his email and started to write an email. Halfway through he raised his head. Only in front of Li Yong could he show his fatigue. Uncle Li, go down and keep an eye on the surgery. Come up every 10 minutes. Do this whether I'm still in the study room or not. Thank you for your hard work. Li Yong didn't ask for the reason. He did as Zhuang Yichen said. I'll go down now. All right. Zhuang Yichen typed the email, sent it out and turned off his computer. He stood up, a stone weighing down on his heart. He stood in the same spot and thought for a long time. He walked around the room a few times. He wanted to kick everything in the room. After calming himself down, he walked out of the study and went through the corridor. When he returned to the bedroom, he panicked when he saw that Xiaoyu was not on the bed. The bathroom door wasn't closed. He rushed over. Xiaoyu felt warm all over. It was so warm that she wanted to sleep. It was like being in Zhuang Yichen's arms. He hugged her tightly and she used his body as an oven to warm herself up. However, he tightened his grip on her until she couldn't breathe. She wanted to escape, but he grabbed her neck. She saw his fierce gaze and his eyes were bloodshot. He looked like a hungry beast. She started to kick him with all her might. She couldn't kick him. Everything was in vain. She wanted to cry. She wanted to ask him why he was treating her like this. Did he love her? Did he not have any feelings at all? Otherwise, how could he be so ruthless? She started to give up struggling. Zhuang Yichen's heart tightened when he saw Xiaoya submerged in the bathtub. He bent down and scooped her out of the water. Xiaoya's entire body was drenched and Zhuang Yichen was drenched. He placed her on the bed and began to press his hand on her chest to relieve the water. When Xiaoya woke up, she found that she had vomited water on the bed. Zhuang Yichen heaved a sigh of relief and sat on the bed. He reprimanded her. Can you bathe with your eyes open? What's the difference between dying a little later and dying a little earlier? Xiaoya sat on the bed. She was still naked. She wrapped a towel around her body. The room was air-conditioned. She walked barefoot on the wooden floor and walked into the bathroom. Zhuang Yichen heard the sound of the hairdryer coming from the bathroom. He knew that he didn't sound good, but he was really frightened just now. Xiaoya returned to the room. Her hair was already dry. She changed into her nightgown and changed the wet sheets. Zhuang Yichen looked around the room cautiously. He didn't feel safe anywhere. He thought carefully. What should he do? He might not be able to find Zhuang Yifeng if he took the initiative. He had to let him find him. Zhuang Yichen took the electronic sensor from the study and scanned the entire room. Xiaoya shouted. Zhuang Yichen turned around and put his index finger to his lips. He didn't make a sound and only gestured for her to keep quiet. Xiaoya was stunned and swallowed her words. Usually his bedroom was cleaned by Li Yong and the maids. He thought that no one would dare to do anything in front of Li Yong. As expected, nothing suspicious appeared in the room. But now he felt that he was under Zhuang Yifeng's surveillance. This feeling was too strong. He and Zhuang Yifeng could be said to be fighting to the death in business. Xiaoya went to work every day either with him or with the chauffeur at home. She would wait for him to pick her up after work. Recently he had been enjoying this kind of life. It felt like he was in a relationship. This kind of routine was actually very safe. Xiaoya wanted to ask Zhuang Yichen for an explanation, but seeing him sitting on the floor in a daze, she didn't dare to interrupt him. After a while Zhuang Yichen waved at Xiaoya. Come here. Although Xiaoya felt uncomfortable, she still passed. Zhuang Yichen was still sitting on the floor. He pulled Xiaoya into his arms and started to kiss her. He kissed all the places his lips could reach. Xiaoya, he said in a low voice. You scared me to death. Xiaoya's heart trembled. Zhuang Yichen said that he was scared to death. Would he be scared? She will get better. When she said this, she didn't know what she felt in her heart. It was very painful. Zhuang Yichen caressed her shoulder. Her wrist was still scarred by the rope, and she had not applied any ointment. Xiaoya didn't want to apply medicine. She felt that she would get better. In fact, she wanted to take a longer time to recover because Xan Man's injury was too serious. She didn't know what else could compare to Xan Man. Did all men like weak women? At this time she wanted to pretend to be weak. But damn it, she was drenched in the cold rain for the whole night and didn't even sneeze. His gentle lips were kissing her wrist. Xiaoya, you blame me. I know. But if I went to save you, you would be the one injured now. Do you understand? I can't do that. Don't blame me. Xiaoya was in a daze. She let the man kiss her wound. After she broke free, she held his face and kissed him back. Zhuang Yichen only wanted to kiss her, but her kiss made him hotter and hotter. On the floor she sat on top of him. She didn't even take off her nightgown. She pulled down his pants and used her softest and hottest part to devour his manhood. Xiaoya kissed Zhuang Yichen. Her body was moving. Her mouth and nose were overflowing with pleasure. But her heart was crying. The tears in her heart were like the rain at that time, falling endlessly. Why did he dare to make such a bet? Who knew if the bullet that was aimed at Xian Man would hit her instead? The man's hand was on her waist. He held her waist tightly and increased the frequency of her movements. Then he called her name hoarsely. A name that only he had called before. Xiaoyao. Waves of heat gushed out from their bodies, accompanied by the climax of the two of them. Li Yong went upstairs many times. After Zhuang Yichen came out of Xiaoya's body, he took a shower and went downstairs again. That night, Xiaoya didn't wait for Zhuang Yichen to come upstairs again. Xiaoya lay on the bed and did not sleep at all. Zhuang Yichen dragged a deck chair and stood guard outside Xan Man's door. He covered himself with a blanket and slept. Zhuang Yichen was now in a villa in the suburbs. The environment was good. There were a few villas built around the lake. The greenery was excellent, and the villas couldn't see each other. The night after the rain was quiet, but Zhuang Yichen would always lift the blanket and stand up. He walked through the corridor and the living room to see what was happening outside. He turned back to look at the door that was still closed because of the surgery. After a moment of silence, he lay down on the chair again. Li Yong didn't sleep a wink either. He came back from outside and changed his muddy shoes before entering the house. He bent down beside Zhuang Yichen's chair and whispered into his ear for a long time. Zhuang Yichen frowned. Xian Man's surgery ended in the morning. When she woke up, it was already 2 days later. However, on the 4th day after Xian Man woke up, she got into a conflict with Xiaoya. This commotion alarmed almost all the servants in the villa. In this villa, except for Li Yong, everyone called Zhuang Yichen Sir. Now, the servants living in the villa behind the main villa were all talking about how Sir carried Miss Xian into his bedroom and slept with his wife. The two women shared a husband and his wife couldn't stand it and made a scene. When night fell, Xian Man leaned against the headboard of the bed. Zhuang Yichen sat by the bed, holding a bowl of ginseng soup in his hand and feeding Xian Man. A servant stood at the door. Little Ya also stood there. She looked, and her eyes seemed to have been smoked. They were hot, sore and painful. Zhuang Yichen, this man had never treated her like this. She knew that the servants behind her were all laughing at her. Her husband's ex-girlfriend was sleeping on her bed, and she wasn't allowed to make a scene. Zhuang Yichen. What do you want? She's your sister-in-law? Xiaoye, you can stay downstairs, Zhuang Yichen said lightly. Xiaoye felt that if she was a person who was cultivating her inner strength in ancient times, she would definitely die from the backlash. This is my room. You're asking me to leave? The servants behind Xiaoye didn't leave and no one dared to stop her. At this moment, XN Man gently pushed Zhuang Yichen's bowl. Yichen, I don't want to drink anymore. I want to go to the window and get some fresh air. Okay, I'll help you up. Awesome novel Songshu 566, that you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.